Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM
This dude
590,
said you've been good.
ESPN.
Because you say it doesn't absolve anybody of responsibility. We were not good. Sorry for that, whatever that was.
Delay.
I almost want to hear the opening again. Was it any good, Shane?
No.
Cool. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We're just gonna chalk that up to
Fun Friday.
whatever happened yesterday.
Hey, my man, Be Smooth. He was like, "Yep, I heard Ravi." I wasn't gonna say anything because you just know how I am.
Yeah.
So I was just gonna.
I mean, yeah. Here we are. We're here. It's fine. Everything's fine. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar
shoot.
Exterior stage. What's up, DB?
Oh, I'm just trying to make it. To be honest,
Apparently, we all are.
no, it was crazy, right?
was.
I mean, and I knew we were fudge. I can't complain. I said it early, like, and I wanted to take it back because I didn't want to be that guy that got on Twitter and was emotional, but I basically was hoping everybody else was okay.
Yeah.
So then I didn't share anything after that. I was like, I'm not going to be that guy. But, I mean, we had been living, I felt like we were living on borrowed time in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because I had seen, even you go all the way back to before the spring game with hurricanes, and homes around us would have all this damage, a block over or 2 blocks over. And I mean, everything, relatively speaking, had been fine, for us every single time.
Yeah.
And all I kept saying was, shoot, man, I'm glad I don't live over there off State Street anymore because that corridor gets
Just
hammered, right? And this time,
gotcha.
oh, yeah, got hammered pretty good. So it was, I think we were still more fortunate than most. Ton of cleanup. So it's kind of a roll of the dice. Thursday night, I mean, it came so quick.
Yeah.
Went from like wanting to get the seat cushions off, and there's like this little glass thing on the furniture. Wanted to get that and put the umbrella down because I asked Alexa right before that, so she let me know it was coming in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But I thought it was just like maybe hail, because Metzler, one of the guys at Westside, was like, "Hey," one of the admins was like, "Let's get home, get ready for the storm." I was like, it's not like that.
Yeah.
No, it was like that.
No, it was like that. Yeah.
So it happened super quick. And the scary thing is when trees started to fall, that's how we knew, like, poop. We're in trouble because we were boxed in. The house next door on both sides and across the street, I mean, big trees falling.
Yep.
And so we were penned in. And of course the power, but a lot of cleanup. I didn't. The neighborhood used the light on Thursday night to do a lot of the cleanup.
Yeah.
I was in the middle. I was actually doing like homemade meatballs. That I'm not even going to get into that. That's over. Once the power started flickering. But my mom had like grandbabies over, and it's kind of unexpected. I think they Ubered over there. Something weird.
Yeah.
I was so distraught I couldn't even answer this question. But I knew when she lost her power, I called her cell phone, and cell phone communication was really garbled. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if it was because networks. It was just.
I think networks were jammed probably.
It was just bad.
Yeah.
And so that was like 7:30, and she didn't want me to leave, but I knew what was she gonna eat?
Yeah.
So I didn't even know what was open. So just kind of blindly, I was like, shoot, I'll just. Had to just drive on the curb a little bit. We moved some of the branches out of the way. Actually, a lot of the branches out of the way. I got some neighbors, man, who don't mess around. I mean, Curtis Chainsaw over there, just like, just like moving and grooving and stuff. And so, because we knew we were penned, and I was up on the top of the block, and like Ingerson and his son and the wife, he like pulled up in the truck because he lives across the street, and his mom lives catty corner. He's like, "Hey, neighbor." I was like, "What the world are you doing here?" But anyway, so got there, and I could barely communicate with her to see what she wanted to eat because she's got kids over there. And so I stopped at the first establishment. But getting there,
Mhm.
it felt like some post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. Like
No,
it felt like
Yeah.
I was in almost a third world country. It made me think I was back in the Dominican
Mm.
in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, it was just a free for all.
Yeah.
I'm like, people. So, like, in the last, I don't know, however many hours, 48, 54, I've seen the best and worst of people.
Yeah.
You know, we were at the, I was at the set establishment, and there were like 35 people in there. And that's how it was.
Mhm.
Even yesterday, Zoe wanted some pancakes because obviously waiting for the power was just like, it's a headache. And so I was just going to run over to McDonald's, and it was out the door. So I went from 108th and Q to 84th
Mhm.
and negotiating traffic. There were police out and stuff, which I was surprised. But some four ways, man, you just can't turn people over to themselves. It was a debacle.
No, you
So
cannot.
made it over to the 84th and Giles one finally, and it was like no bueno.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm like, then it sunk in. I'm like, a lot of people must not be able to eat. Like,
Yeah.
because whatever fast food places there were, like people were.
It was packed.
I mean, it was jammed.
Yeah.
So I stayed at this particular establishment. It was like 40 minutes. I'm trying to sit back there in the corner. I'm worried about cell phone power. I got it. My mom's neighborhood is an utter disaster.
Yeah.
So got the order, and her neighbor, bless his heart, Chris, was helping her outside. So I dropped the food off, and I looked through it, and of course the order wasn't right. So she was outside talking. So I didn't even tell her I was going back because I knew if she didn't want me out anyway.
Yeah.
So I was like, they didn't get her food right, and I knew she was hungry.
Yeah.
And so I went back, and the same people were still in there. Same dude was in line. This poor brother, man, he was like, I'm not even gonna put him on blast, but so got the food, ran it back. Then getting home at like 8:20, 8 was like, oh boy, I just hope I can get there. Grab like 4 bags of ice from. I went to the most knockoff of. It's a good thing about knowing the neighborhood. Like I can kind of navigate and know like people won't think of this place to go get ice and stuff. So did that, and it was like game on. It's just like survived, man. Got up early yesterday because I still wasn't sure if we were doing the show or not, but I knew like the radios weren't like 590, it wasn't coming in.
Yeah. Last I had checked,
so I was just
the stations weren't up.
I was like, oh, maybe something is wrong. So then when I asked, I was already up.
Yeah.
So I tried not to turn on anything that had power, but I did use the blower yesterday morning to get rid of some of the leaves and stuff. But then it was just like wait for the power, and whoever needs to come over. Like we were seriously, whoever wanted to come over could. Because once our power came on, and there were people that we knew that didn't. It's like my we have random people's groceries. Both my sister-in-laws came over, and I hadn't seen Jill and Byron really since the funeral. So, and he was the first one to come get the branches.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he was going to drop-offs. I mean, he's such a I'm just telling you, like,
good dude.
Yeah, salt to the earth kind of dude. So wanted to make sure they were okay. So everybody just kind of stayed and hung out because nobody had any power.
Yeah.
So that was like the only good part.
You got to see a bunch of people.
Yeah, and kept Zoe busy. She played outside from like the minute it stopped raining till it went dark.
Yeah.
Because everybody was just like this frantic cleanup, and it was wild.
Yeah, there are way more people comfortable with chainsaws in my neighborhood than I realized.
Isn't that amazing?
Like I've got one, but I'm just like I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so I think I have a buddy that's gonna come over and help me out with it. But I did. So my front yard, I was out there all day yesterday, basically cleaning up. My backyard requires a professional. Like it is, like I think I've got a huge tree back there. I think it's gonna have to come down, because it basically drops a giant limb every time we have one of these. And this time, about like half the tree came down. And I was like, yeah, I think we're done here. Luckily, it tends to go out of its way not to hit anything important. Like fence was fine. Deck
Fortunate,
was fine.
the lady directly across the street from me.
Yeah,
her tree is on her roof, and she is so kind. Like, I'm just like, oh, but I'll show you. It's amazing. But keep going.
Yeah, it's so I think, and it had one of those, the straight it had issues in the past because when we bought it, sometimes they'll use a cable to kind of keep some of the larger limbs sort of packed in a little bit better and connected to each other so it doesn't land on your house. That the cable snapped yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever it was. So yeah, I think that thing is gonna be done dealing.
Hey, this is kind of a weird question because Shano, you're self-contained, but you could obviously. Did your house heat up, or did the complex heat up?
It was very hot. Yeah,
because you can't get to your garage to hit the electrical thing, right?
Right.
So you're at the mercy of needing power in your garage,
right?
Because we went in through the house, and you can pull the thing down and get out.
That's what we did.
Well, that's why I was thinking I was going to have to charge my phone.
Yeah.
And I was obviously mad at Zoe because we have 54 flashlights in our house, but they're all somewhere in her room because she uses them as toys. She sleeps with 4 of them. And it's like, this little girl, man, I found an itty bitty one. But would you rather go, and so either on accident or because I didn't do my due diligence, both these things I've had both no power and no water. Would you prefer no power or no water?
I think no water.
Give me power every day that ends in water.
Yeah, my wife's the same way because she's like you, where she's like obsessive about showering. Like, I shower every day, but it's not.
I need water.
It's not like a compulsion for me. If I'm like just trying to have either water or whatever, like I'll go buy whatever I need to for consumption purposes, and then like I can be grimy for a couple days and I'll be fine. I don't like it, but I'm not like it will drive my wife crazy.
So I could probably do with the temps in the house. Obviously, the food would bug me.
Mine's the dogs. Like I just worry about my dogs getting too hot, and so I will choose making sure they're at a safe temperature, and like I'll go buy their water. Because like I was at the point yesterday, I'm late afternoon before I get my power back, and I know like Steven's 36 hours without power. I know there's
people had it worse.
Yeah, oh for sure, yeah. So, but I'm late afternoon by the time I get power yesterday, and I'm thinking like, okay, do I go out and try and buy like a little mini generator so I can just get, because I've got a portable AC unit that I'm like, okay, if I just hook this up in one room so I can keep my dogs cool. Like, so I'm trying to figure that kind of stuff out on the fly yesterday. And then,
so my man Les was fully prepared on Thursday night when I got home. He had an extra generator. He's like, hey, I'll be over in the morning.
Yeah.
And I was like, these people, he's like, it's a gas one and it hooks. I said, I'm like, hey, I don't have any idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't either. That's kind of why
I don't know how this is gonna work, but
that's why I didn't end up doing it, because I don't really know what I'm doing.
But he's like, hey, I come over. I think he said either his brother or his neighbor. He's like, we'll get you up and running. And I was just like, it's a shame what I don't know what to do. But I wonder how many people just on a, what do you call it, impulse buy, ran out and got generators.
Yeah. I mean, I was about to. Like, if I had a better idea of how to make it work, because I know some of them,
Shane,
I know
you can get me in. I'm still backstage for whatever reason.
I know the smaller ones, you can like plug stuff directly in or whatever. So that's probably what I was going to get. But like, I don't really know how kind of the whole home gas ones work a little bit. I probably do need to look into that, because yesterday, because I also have like medical stuff too, right? Like,
yeah, it broke my heart when I asked. I was just checking on you, and you're like, "Oh, just running out to my vehicle to charge my pump." And I was like, "Oh boy, we better get him over here."
Yeah, it was like I had, I've got options in terms of trying to make that work, but then, like insulin needs to be refrigerated and stuff like that too. So, and luckily we were fine on our fridge and stuff. Like you keep it closed and it stays cold for a pretty long time.
I didn't open it one time.
Yeah.
we had bottles of water, or I already keep a cooler inside just because I like for stuff to have come out of the ice. So it's weird. Like you can come over right now and there's a cooler in the corner that looks like it's supposed to be there, and it just has miscellaneous drinks in it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I put it on the back deck. Sometimes it's in the kitchen. But so put a couple more waters in there, handed out some bags of ice to the neighbors, and stocked the other one. And I was straight.
Yeah, I
didn't open neither and I had just got good. I just was at Fairway the day before or that morning.
Yeah. Yeah, our freezer and fridge were fine. I opened it up after power came back on, and like the ice hadn't even started to melt together yet or anything. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, I was thrilled. So I was like, okay, if the ice is cool, then all my other stuff is fine.
Yeah.
So that was, so like I probably need to get a backup generator just for medical purposes.
I drove to the Ace yesterday morning early, well, as soon as it opened, which again, police navigating the 96th and it's either Harrison or Giles. I get them confused. Which one's northernmost? Harrison.
Harrison's further north than Giles.
And like that 4-way, but it was the night before was a debacle because I was looking for something to eat. This Echo is fantastic. Jiminy Christmas. You couldn't get in the doors at the hardware store.
Yeah.
But there were people, like the electric doors didn't open, but they let some people like standing in another part of another entrance, but it was dark.
Oh.
So they clearly didn't have power.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if they were like going to do some, like, was it a cash transaction? If it was an emergency?
Yeah.
But there were like 7 or 8 people in line, and I certainly wasn't.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll get a rake later. But
yeah.
No, I actually ended up asking Josie. I was like, can I use your rake?
Hey, if you guys coming over anyway.
Yeah. She brought her vacuum too. Like, and she could have a good time at a funeral. Like, her personality is very, very glass half full. And I wondered what was going on at the hardware store.
Yeah.
But I didn't have this, some people weren't in the mood. And everybody was stressed. I wanted to say, like,
how's it going to work?
No, you know what my first thing was going to be? That I'll just say it.
Yeah.
I was like, so is this where we go in? But I knew the guy in front of me probably would have been like,
yeah,
what do you think we're doing?
Yeah.
It wasn't a time it just felt tense.
Yeah, for sure.
And it wasn't a time for small talk. So I walked back to the car, went home. Swear I never said a word.
You're just like, nah,
I'm
we're
just
good.
like, I wonder, are you letting people in one at a time? Because it was dark.
Yeah.
And one of the places that I tried to get food from, because the family hadn't eaten Thursday night, like, at all. And it's like 9:00. And so I ran over to a place that was, let's just say it's over in kind of Terra Hills. Like, do you know where the city pub is, over off the landing? And it was packed. So I tried to get a to-go order. And I was just making small talk with the manager about the night. And they're like, well, we only lost power for, I think she said 10 minutes. But it reset the whole system.
Oh, yeah.
So it screwed up the So really that 10 minutes put them behind like hours.
Yeah, for sure.
Which I don't understand, but I get it.
I don't know, like, the technical.
Yeah, because the system went offline.
But I can imagine if everything gets reset, you're in a bad way.
Yeah. So.
But I don't know the mechanics behind it.
They did keep the kitchen open past 10.
Yeah. That's good.
Because people were just pulling up late. It was so much traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wild.
Let's get to our guy Asian Wyatt here. Wyatt, we got a couple minutes left for you. What's going on, bud?
What's up, Wyatt?
Waiting for the power to come back on.
Still. Ooh. So where'd you guys go? And you got to move. So you have pets, and you have kids. Ravi would consider them the same thing. You and I both know they're not.
Yeah, pets are easier to deal with.
Yeah, we're making it. Luckily I got a generator, so we got a generator going.
So how long is that going to last you?
As long as I got gas to put in it, that's how long it'll last me.
Oh, so it's gas. So so this is what Les was explaining to me. So it sits outside. You just run an extension cord. No, you can't because you don't need an extension cord. So you run an extension cord to what you're plugging, like what you're putting it into, right?
Yeah. So we got two extension cords going to the fridge and one to the freezer, and then we'll just occasionally unplug it if we need something else plugged in for a little bit.
Oh, so that's how you do your phone.
Yeah. So we got a little portable battery charger. So I'll plug that in and charge that up every now and then, and giving it plug our devices in there.
Even my mom knew to charge her phone through her iPad. I would have never have thought of that.
Right.
I charge mine on my laptop.
I had no idea that was even a thing. I'm like, how does she?
But
my sister have had to have told her. There's no way. But anyway.
But talking about like no power, no water. Back when we used to live on the river, on the Elkhorn River, we were on well water, and then one time the power went out for 5 days for us, and because we're on well water, our water wasn't working either. So that was a rough time without water for 5 days, and power without 5 days.
Yeah, that's brutal. That's oof.
Yeah, my buddy JB in KC, his parents live by me, and he said OPPD is telling him sometime next week. His mom's hanging out at the library. My other St. Louis Jordan said that he was at Lowe's, and they had 150 generators. They sold them all.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt that even if you didn't have a generator by 7 a.m., you're out of luck.
All right, Wyatt. Good luck.
You need
out
anything?
there, man.
Let me know, Wyatt.
All right, I'll be over soon.
You got it.
We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Coming up on the show today at 7:45, we're going to talk to Matt Davison, former Husker and currently working with 1890.
Big weekend.
Going to talk a little collective with our guy, Matt Davison. Coming up at 8, we'll talk to Tim Verghese from inside Nebraska, get kind of his thoughts on the big recruiting weekend that was last week and where Nebraska stands with a lot of those guys. 8:45, we will talk to Kevin Iole of Yahoo Sports, covers boxing. Bud Crawford, big fight tomorrow night. Then at 9, of course, we'll talk to our guy Mike Sautter, and we'll wrap up the show and the week as we always do with our guy Matty Vrzal.
So they were cool. Like that's where he got the food yesterday. And he was fortunate. It was weird how you could be a couple blocks over and it may not have hit you.
I could literally see from my house. We're like on the pretty close to the line of a grid apparently. I could see people from my house like less than a half a block away with power that never lost power.
Yeah, I have a neighbor that I used to coach with.
Yeah.
At Westside, and he checked on us yesterday, and I said, "Hey, when did you get your power back?" And he said, "You know, the weird thing is he never lost it."
Yeah, my parents never lost theirs.
He's right around the corner.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Yeah. It's wild. Like I could literally see people with power from my house. And
I think I don't know how it works, but the whole
I don't either.
Above ground, underground thing is a factor too.
Oh, for sure.
My neighbor works at OPPD. I mean, by the way, shout those guys out.
Yeah, they've been working round the clock.
So
they brought in 1,000 people yesterday, like 1,000 more. I don't know where they came from. I don't know if they got them from other states or whatever, but they brought in 1,000 extra people to keep working yesterday.
Listen, so our partner in crime, or probably more my partner in crime, your boating partner, Amber, that's what her hubby does.
Yeah.
He's gone 6 a.m. It was 9:45 last night, and he hadn't been back home.
Yeah. They're literally working around the clock. So shout out to them. I know, it's frustrating. I mean, I was frustrated yesterday, and I was barely out 24 hours.
Your text replies were progressively getting worse. Did you notice that, Shane? Just minimal information as we went on.
Yeah, they started just becoming sarcastic gifs at one point. I'll be honest. I'm a person that
I noticed.
I would not. Like, I'm not a survive the apocalypse person.
You're just out?
No, like, I'm good. Like if I'm just, like if my standard of living.
You're just not built for survival.
I'm not. Well, I mean, first of all, if like.
You don't even have to worry about the scariest thing are young people and older people.
So here's the problem, though. So at any given time, because insurance companies are awesome, I only have 30 days worth of insulin. So I'm dead in 30 days regardless if society collapses.
Wow.
Like I'm done.
Like Con Air?
Basically, like I've got 30 days, I'm out.
Yeah.
Right? So why I'm not going to just like suffer. Like I might wait out the 30 days just to be like, maybe things will bounce back. But after that, I'm donezo anyway. I'm not going to try and like find an insulin factory and go figure it out. Like we're going to call it. We're just going to call it after 30 days. Wow. I'm not going out like that. The way, not to get like too morbid, the way people used to die from type 1 diabetes is horrifying. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Like before they discovered insulin 100 years ago, it was horrifying. Your body eats itself to death. It's terrible. I'm not doing that. If society collapses, I'm gone and I'm cool with it.
Would you just went to local places to eat?
Yeah, so I've got a bunch of fast food places by my by my house.
You're on the corridor, right?
And so there was some stuff that lost power too, but again, since we're kind of like right on that line of the grid, like half the places were still. If I was on the right side of the line, basically, then there was a bunch of places that were still open. So
the convenience store had over $10,000 worth of stuff stolen. And they broke into like the little places you can sit down and like do the online gaming.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy that runs the place was pretty happy because it has then become a federal offense. So he was just hoping to bury.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
The guys. He's like, yeah.
Speaking of online gaming, can we have a little discussion here?
What happened?
Can you go get your boy?
Who?
Dr. Tom.
Why?
We go get your boy.
It's not. Listen. So it is going to be an interesting battle.
He's the only person
because the governor is like all in.
The governor's like, hey, let the people vote. Like, because that's all we're even talking about here is letting the people, which I thought was what democracy was, by the way, but I could be wrong.
We're probably closer to a republic, by the way. But.
I know. It's a representative democracy, whatever, same idea. But the governor's just like, hey, like put it in front of the people in November, let them decide.
Yeah.
Which, hey, seems like a novel idea.
Well, he knows what the budget looks like.
Well, that's the thing. So I don't know if you read this or not, but apparently Dr. Tom thinks Nebraska is going to be the only state in the union that loses money on gambling.
Yeah.
Not just the only state in the union, but really the only establishment in history that has lost money running some sort of gaming operation.
Yeah.
You know why? Why Las Vegas looks like it does? Because gambling makes you money.
I get the premise.
And so I'm just having a real hard time. He guaranteed it that the cost will outweigh the benefit. I don't know if he's talking about like moral cost or whatever, but my question is, Dr. Tom, like where's the moral cost of people having to give up their houses because they can't afford their property taxes anymore? Because that feels like a pretty big moral cost to me too.
And if I read right with the economic forecast, and I kind of loosely get what the governor's trying to do with the property tax deal, although I'm not sure those numbers will add up, but that's a little above my pay grade.
Sure.
But I'm all for other revenue streams, though.
Yeah, you know what's great? Other revenue streams.
Because if you look at home insurance and car insurance, it's through the roof.
Mm-hmm. And property taxes are like doubling every 4 to 5 years at this point.
Yeah.
And I get that's partially because of home values have been going up like that. But you're literally having people that have been in their homes for years that they haven't gotten a new mortgage. They haven't done anything. The only thing that's changed is their property taxes that can no longer afford their homes. And you're telling me because you have a moral opposition to gambling that those people shouldn't have property tax relief by creating other revenue streams. That's the argument that was made yesterday.
And it's funny too, because
that's a dumbass argument.
We're in this period now, like with fiscal stuff, where people are having to do things that normally they wouldn't agree with, right? We just heard in the press conference, Coach Rule like kind of break down
100%.
Hey, we're trying not to charge for things that
we haven't charged for.
Charged for in the past.
Yeah,
but we do need to find
new revenue streams. So we might invent some new stuff.
And he used the F word was what I was trying to explain when I said I don't understand the pushback. Remember the very morning on the eve of the night where they said, hey, let's do a pay for practice. Yeah. I'm like, I was sick of reading my timeline. I'm like, people have to understand, like
I thought it was
it's a fundraiser.
Yeah, it's a fundraiser. Right?
I gave the raffle analogy, and I'm like, and I hadn't even talked to Coach Rule, but it wasn't rocket science to figure out that they wanted to make money.
That it was a fundraiser,
right?
Like that's pretty simple. And guess what? If they did one of these every week, I'd go to practice every week. You know why? Because I want to see practice. And
I'll see you guys in practice.
You want to support. It's better than, like boosters have been giving away money for free for years.
Yeah.
For years. Like, I would rather get something out of it. Like, hey, I pay $25. Like, yeah, I'll also go see practice for $25. I'll do a little pay-per-view.
And like you said, it's like my point in saying that,
and if you don't want to go, don't pay $25.
I just hope the weather isn't a deterrent.
Yeah.
And I worry that on the heels of the city trying to recover, that isn't a deterrent, but it's obviously a statewide thing too. But having said all that, it's like it's uncomfortable times.
Yeah.
Like you have to kind of do some things that
maybe you wouldn't normally do.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's things that Nebraska's pretty far down the line in. We've seen this play out other places. And guess what? Everything's fine. Like, gambling has not been the end of sports as we know it. It has not been the end of collegiate athletics as we know it. And I know they're like, oh, but look at all these people that have been caught. It's like, yes, if it wasn't legal, they wouldn't have been caught. That's the great fallacy here, is they think legal gambling encourages people to gamble. It's like, no, it encourages people who are doing shady things to get caught, because now you have a paper trail. Like, that's what happens.
That is one way to look at it.
Like, these people that really want to gamble, guess what? They're not gambling because it's not legal in Nebraska. They're either doing it illegally or they're sending money to Iowa.
Yeah.
So I would prefer not to send our money to Iowa. Let's keep the money right here and go ahead and make it legal.
That just fit your mood, right? You're already kind of in a bad mood.
Oh, I'm in a bad mood about a lot of stuff today. I don't know if we're going to get to the other thing, because I don't know if I want to open that can of worms, but people are out here being idiots this week. Like, bad.
What are we talking about? Wow, the head. Hey.
We're talking to Matt Davison coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio from 1890 about
color me curious
new
now.
Streams of revenue. My point is, most things are a lot more complicated than we want to give it credit to, but because our little pea brains can't handle ambiguity, we want to make it black and white, and we end up demonizing people that didn't do anything wrong. That's what we're on today.
All right.
Matt Davison coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up hour number one here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by Matt Davison, former Husker, and now with 1890, the initiative that's helping out Nebraska athletics in this era of NIL. Matt, how are you this morning?
Good, guys. Ravi, Damon, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. We probably don't do it enough, man. How you been? It's a forever changing landscape, man, but you guys you're finding a way to stay ahead, man. I love it.
Man, we're trying. I'll tell you what. And Damon, congratulations, man. Exciting times for you, and happy for Caleb and the whole thing. I mean, wow. Have you reminded him though how easy they have it now? I mean,
I try not to hold it over his head, but man, I appreciate you guys taking care of him, man. You're right. It's different times. They're talking about things like putting away money for retirement accounts, and I'm thinking, we were just trying to figure out if you could find the right roommate to keep the cost down. Remember those days?
I mean, oh yeah. How do four guys split a medium pizza?
Yep.
I mean, it was tough, man. I mean, we were on salt tablets too. I mean, no water, 2 a days. These guys 1 a day. They have all the stuff. I mean, shoot, but it's good, man. Gosh dang, it's exciting times. We remember the first week of camp, all the years we went through, and they're working hard and getting ready for a good season upcoming.
It's cool too, right? Because Coach Rule said this the other day in the presser, and you'll get this. You're almost excited for that first day, even though you know it's work, because it's way better than the conditioning and what leads up to it during those summer workouts, right? It's finally like, all right, man, I just want to put this to good use and see how good a shape I'm in, because that other stuff sucks.
No doubt about it, man. And in football, there's only 12 times, right? You hope there's 13 or 14 or 15 now, but I mean, there's so many workouts, so many early days and tough workouts and changing your body, doing the things to get ready. And, now you have 30 days or so to get ready for that first one. And I love the schedule this year. I like starting out at home and hopefully get some momentum early. And I'm just pumped for these guys. I know they've worked hard. We've seen the changes in the team, and there's been some great additions, and there's been some great strides made by guys that have been in the program for a long time. And just really excited for Coach Rule and the guys on the team.
Yeah, break it down for us, right? Big day tomorrow. I love the idea, but it takes some collaboration. Everybody's got to be on the same page. You guys, athletic director Troy Dannon, Coach Rule, pretty cool idea.
Yeah, thanks. It's kudos to those guys for allowing us to even try to pull this off. It's the first time we've done something like this, obviously, but there's no question that with NIL moving forward and the programs that have unity and alignment with their collective are going to have a great chance to be successful. And Troy has come in with great vision for what he wants it to look like. And ideas like this are where you can make a difference. When NIL first hit, I thought, these are the types of events where Nebraska can be different than other places. And again, it's the first time we've done anything like this, but Saturday night, it's an open practice. Tickets are $25, huskers.com/tickets. Bring your friends and family, come out and watch the team practice. It's a Saturday night. You'll get to take in Memorial Stadium and the big screens and all the sights and sounds of a game day. Coach Rule has some really cool ideas that I think those people that do decide to come are going to have a great time. They're going to get some really good football insight during the practice. And so we're just pumped about it, man. We hope a lot of people buy tickets to come out.
Matt, so I got to ask, what was how did you approach Coach Rule with this idea? Because most football coaches, as I'm sure you know, guard their practices like they're nuclear secrets. And just having one open to the public like this, especially this early on, does not seem like something that would be an easy sell. So, how did this philosophically come about?
I mean, I guess the words tiptoe kind of come to mind. I mean, I was like, Coach, hey, Husker fans love Memorial Stadium. I think we could get some people to come out. We charge for it. Money goes to NIL. If we do it early in the season, maybe it's no game planning yet. It's just regular stuff, like a spring game almost. And he was open-minded to it right away, honestly. He's been great about trying to help 1890 in any way he can when he has time. And we understand that his time is limited too, but things like this, they're going to practice, right?
Yeah,
and mostly they're working on install and they're just doing regular, basic things and a lot of fundamentals. And so he was open-minded to it, and he understands that Husker fans love Husker football, right? And to give them kind of a behind-the-scenes look at things while helping NIL and helping student athletes, he thought was a home run. And so did Troy Dannon, and here we are.
So, Matt, I'm curious because you mentioned the kind of alignment between athletic department and collective being an advantage for teams that actually have that. But how helpful has Coach Rule been as kind of an advocate for 1890? Because without, you just mentioned it right there with the practice, without his support, your life could be a lot harder than it is, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I mean, Coach Rule, when he came back into college football, he understood whoa, this is going to be a big part of things, right? I mean, we all know living here what Nebraska has to offer: great fan base, awesome facilities, Big Ten education, passionate fan base, all these things. And then you talk about who the head coach is and who your position coach is and the scheme, and all those things play into where a young man wants to go play football. But now you have the NIL piece, and you better be competitive there too, or it's going to be really hard to get the best players and retain the best players. And he knew that right away. And so, he's been awesome. His communication is unbelievable with us, with recruits. Everybody sees how smooth he is and how he handles an enormous job, and he makes it look easy most of the time. And that's been my experience too. And so we're lucky to have a head coach here that embraces it. I know there's still some that maybe don't feel great about it, but it is here to stay, and you better be good at it if you want to win.
Yeah, and I like the fact, because I just talking with you and kind of what the visions are and how far and how fast you guys have had to kind of morph into these different roles, right? Of 501c3 versus not 501c versus donations now can go to NIL, and you can get a tax. Like, you guys stay on it, always trying to be flexible. And I like the fact that, like, Troy Dana and Coach Rule, it's like, it may not be like this in a month, but you don't allow it to, like, not be productive. It's like, okay, if we can do this for a month, let's do blank for a month. If we need to change later, we can change. Like, you need like-minded folks to be able to be as current and malleable or flexible as you guys are.
Yeah, it's a good point, man. And it's so true. I mean, there's been so many changes since we started this company a couple of years ago. And like any other startup, you have things you're still figuring out, right? And with the laws changing and state laws and the national landscape, there's a lot to deal with. But you're right. I mean, we're lucky because we have Sandhills Global that owns us. And so we have tremendous resources at 1890 that a lot of collectives do not have, right? I mean, we have 6 employees here, but we have another 12 to 15 people at Sandhills that are working on 1890 every day. So we have resources with legal teams and accounting and web design and our merch store, all those things. Then you put the athletic department behind it now too, where we have their resources and we're all collaborating. We're talking about, looking around the corner and what's next. And instead of just sitting and waiting. And yeah, we're trying to be as good at this thing as we can now, given what the rules are today. But we're going to be ready to pivot if and when things changes, and we'll work together to do it. And that's where I think Husker fans and our fan base hopefully feels comfortable in that we're going to do the right things. We're going to pivot when we have to, and we're going to try to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
So, Matt, you mentioned, and I'm sure it is not lost on you, having that legal team at Sandhills Global is going to be really important as you figure out what exactly the rules are with the NCAA versus house settlement. And have you started, I mean, I'm sure you've started digging into that, but have you started kind of figuring out okay, if all these proposed changes happen that are in this settlement, what does 1890 start to look like as these things get implemented a year from now? Or is it just kind of like DB said, hey, we're taking it day by day and figuring it out as we go?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I think about it in my truck, laying in bed at night, over lunch. I mean, it's just, and anybody that tells you that they think they know what's going to happen is probably not telling the truth. I mean, we're preparing for a lot of different scenarios and what this could look like, but we're going to be ready for it. That's the bottom line. And 1890 cannot be successful without our fans.
Yeah.
And so the ones that have helped us, thank you. And those that are thinking about helping, go to our website, 1890nebraska.com. We try to make it as easy as we can to get involved, to help us, because the bottom line is if we don't get contributions in the door, then we're not much of an NIL company to begin with. So we can have all these people in place, and we can have, awesome processes and all of these things. But unless we're raising money, it really doesn't matter. And so we're lucky here at Nebraska. We have great people that want to help our teams. And so that gives me comfort as I'm thinking about what it looks like down the road, knowing that whatever comes our way, I think because of the unity we have now with the athletic department and the fan base we have, I think we're going to be ready for it.
Yeah, looking forward to it, man. I appreciate you a ton, and the time too. I'm hoping for a big day tomorrow, man. I usually get a chance to run into you down there, so I'm hoping to go about 4 for my last 4.
Yeah, man, I'll see you down there. And if anybody wants to buy tickets yet, you got to buy them today. Ticket sales end at 5. So go online to huskers.com/tickets and hope to see a lot of people out there tomorrow night.
I appreciate you, Matty.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
That's Matt Davison, president of 1890 Initiative, former Husker as well. We appreciate Matt's time. We've got Tim Verghese coming up next from Inside Nebraska. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We are joined now by Tim Verghese of Inside Nebraska. Tim, how are you this morning?
Not too bad. How about y'all?
Hanging in there, man. Drinking through a fire hose, but not quite like yourself. I mean, it is – wow, it's a ton happening on a real short amount of time, especially with Nebraska, man. How you keeping up now, especially now that camp starts and we got like real football too? You got to balance.
Yeah, like a bit of a balance. Picking and choosing what's important specifically for my role. Like, for example, today Nebraska's got a press conference. The quarterbacks are speaking. It's a pretty important day. But I'm covering from home because I'm chasing a couple things. I've got a podcast recording later today. It just makes more sense to just kind of stay home. And for my specific job, just kind of makes more sense to skip out on the press conference. But kind of picking and choosing what's important right now and kind of what matters more specifically for my job just in this critical month.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of a critical month, Nebraska had a critical recruiting weekend last weekend. Obviously, David Sanders Jr. was the highlight, but certainly not the only one. A couple days after that, you had Terry in from Texas as well. I mean, as we sit here, let's just start with those two guys because they're the headliners as being, the 5-star guys. What realistically do you put Nebraska's chances at for those guys?
I mean, I think right now, with someone asked me this a couple of days ago, and this was before I had heard back on Terry's visit, and I had said Sanders' chances are higher than Terry. Right now, I would put Terry at 40%, and I'd put Sanders at 35%. A little bit of an adjustment from earlier this week. Sanders, I think, remains just at 35%, just because I still keep hearing Tennessee's on top. People keep telling me to not count out Ohio State just yet. And then, I mean, I don't hear a whole lot about Georgia, but at the same time, I don't think Georgia's a program you ever want to count out of a recruitment right now. What I'll say there is, I think at this point, everyone can gather Nebraska made a really big impression last week to the point that, like, they're getting real consideration. I think consideration to the point that it's scaring Tennessee, Ohio State, and Georgia a little bit, just how much Nebraska is being considered here down this final stretch of this recruitment. So Nebraska's done a really good job. I think it just really just kind of depends on what him and his family are thinking. Like, I think one thing that continues to loom for me is, everyone I've talked to around this recruitment, especially when Nebraska got involved early on, was distance was always going to be a factor here and is always going to be a factor. He's a family guy. I think everyone can gather that too, the way he came up with his siblings and his parents. Like, he's a big family guy. And I think the opportunity for his family to be at games is something he's really looking to have. And Nebraska's done the best of like pitching, hey, even though we're a little further from home, here's why this makes sense. I still think that proximity to home kind of looms. And like, when it's a decision as close as this, I kind of feel like that's something that's going to end up coming out on top is, hey, I can play 6 hours from home instead of 12 to 15, with Terry on the other side, it's a little, I think it's coming down to Texas and Nebraska. I think this recruitment's kind of swung back into what it was in the spring, where if he's going to leave the state, it's going to be for Nebraska. But it's going to be hard to overcome just his fondness for Texas, the proximity to home, everything that Texas kind of has to offer him specifically. I think it's coming down to those two. I think this last Nebraska visit was enough to give Nebraska just a slight edge over Oregon going down the stretch. And it's more than NIL here. It's NIL paired with so many different factors that Nebraska's long-term presence in this recruitment gave them, which Oregon, being a newer program in this recruitment, doesn't really have.
So, Tim, is Oregon a school of the newbies? And maybe not, because I think a lot of times Nebraska couldn't really foresee head-to-head battles with like Ohio State or even Michigan, for that matter. And I may go as far out as Penn State. But there is some overlapping in this last cycle, quite a bit with Oregon. Coincidence, part of the cycle that kind of can be cyclical, no pun intended there. Or do you think Oregon is a team, the way that Lanning likes to recruit, that you could, and now being in the same conference, that you could see showing up in some Nebraska discussions?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Dan
kind of
Lanning,
weird, isn't it, for a newbie? Like,
right.
We don't even have a ton of overlapping with like teams that we had been in the conference with.
Right. I mean, the thing with Oregon is they kind of recruit in a way where they truly believe no prospect is off the board for them, just in the sense that, like, there's no area they won't go into. But I will say that 2 hotbeds for them right now, just because of coaching relationships and things. Dan Lanning really knows the Kansas City area real well. Like, he knows Kansas, he knows Missouri, he knows those 2 real well. You've seen him kind of establish and maintain a presence in Missouri, just in terms of like consistently offering guys and making a presence there. Obviously, they've got Mosey committed, but like that's not the only one. You know, they've kind of maintained a presence in Missouri. They're going to continue doing that because of Dan Lanning's just background in that city. And then on the other side, their offensive coordinator, Will Stein, that's an awesome, like, he's from Texas. He coached at UTSA. He's got some strong relationships down in Texas. Those are 2 areas that Texas Nebraska and Oregon kind of overlap, is trying to establish themselves in Texas and again, like, trying to lock down Kansas City. So I think you're going to keep running into Oregon on the trail, and not just there. Like, again, Oregon they kind of believe and operate in that we can recruit where we want. You know, they're pushing in the Midwest. I think you're going to see it in this 26 cycle. This Midwest group in 26 is really impressive, and Nebraska's involved with a lot of these guys, obviously, but Oregon's involved with a lot of these guys as well. And like, when I say 26, I mean, like, there's specifically like tight ends, O-line, some D-line mid, and even some like corners and DBs, like, in the Midwest this upcoming cycle. It gets kind of loaded in this region.
We're talking with Tim Verghese of Inside Nebraska. Tim, you mentioned Mosey, the current Oregon commit. Obviously, his dad now on staff at Nebraska. How do you view his continued recruitment? I know a lot of people just expect him to flip because of the relationship there, but where are you at on that?
Again, I think still holding. I think kind of feels like one of those matter of time situations at this point. But I know Oregon's obviously still having some dialogue. I would say one thing to keep an eye on is I wouldn't be surprised if a school like Missouri sees that, he's open to looking around and is circling back there as well, just being like, hey, the option isn't just Nebraska. Like, we're here too. Missouri pushed for a while before he committed to Oregon initially. So again, wouldn't be surprised if they kind of make a little run too. But at this point, it feels like a matter of time for Nebraska. And I think Nebraska kind of put themselves over the top this past weekend, just with the pitch they had for him on what he'd look like in the offense, and just kind of made him feel, again, at home. Like, that's not been Nebraska's done a really good job of consistently making him feel comfortable on campus. And now having his dad there, I think that just only helps them. Like, UCF didn't recruit Isaiah when Jamar was there for a reason. I think they kind of had an inkling that Jamar was eventually going to head somewhere closer to home, and they knew kind of Isaiah wouldn't really go to UCF because that was a temporary spot for his dad. But Nebraska's not that type of situation for either of them.
It's interesting because I know Ravi's such a Deion Sanders fan. I think he loves the fact that he can only coach his kids. Some kids don't like to be around their parents if they're coaches in that regard. Like, if proximity was a thing when dad was in Kansas City, you'd think he may have already stayed closer, but he wanted to go to Oregon, obviously, for whatever those reasons are. Did you think it's just a foregone conclusion that he would come back and be with dad? Because I don't always get that impression between the two.
It definitely wasn't a foregone conclusion, but I think the visit did enough to put them over the top just off the overall staff. Because the thing with him was, like, it always felt like home at Nebraska beyond my dad being here. Like, it always felt like a family atmosphere. And then now having dad here only helps that. But then, on top of that, I do think more than anything, like, the role in the offense was something he was pitched on. And I think he's looking at the depth chart at Nebraska, and he's looking at the depth chart in Oregon, plus the recruiting class Oregon has. They have the number 1 receiver in the country committed, the number 5 or 6 receiver in the country committed. Like, they've got a pretty loaded wide receiver room coming in. And of course, they're still after Michael Terry, just like Nebraska is. So I think he's looking at both of those and seeing, like, okay, Nebraska's pitching me on seeing the field early. So is Oregon. What's more realistic? I feel like Nebraska is more realistic at this point. So,
which is pretty impressive because Nebraska's young wide receiving core is pretty good.
Yes, and but
that's not even counting Demetrius Bell.
Right, exactly. And again, that is not to take away from who Nebraska has right now, who Nebraska's bringing in. I will say this too: Nebraska's currently got a wide receiver commit, Bryson Hayes from Maize, Kansas. Bryson can play.
Yeah, the speedster.
Yeah, like that's a guy that you look at Mosey and you're like, okay, this is a guy that kind of fits in the slot, does a lot of things you want to see in the slot. So is Bryson, and Bryson does a lot of those things at a very high level. Like I think he's a little underrated just because no one's really been out to see him at Maize. Last time people were out at Maize was when Avery Johnson was there, but that was when Bryson was a sophomore, so he wasn't really super featured in the offense. But we're gonna get eyes on him this fall. Hopefully, kind of push for that rankings bump because that's one of the better slots in the country, in my opinion.
Tim, we were talking about earlier Nebraska competing with Oregon for a lot of these recruits, and it reminded me of this conversation DB and I were having earlier. I don't remember if it was this week, last week. I don't know. Time always, melts together. But about Nebraska's ceiling as a school in terms of recruiting, because we've talked to people who are like, they can kind of live in that 15 to 20 range. But then you look at, okay, that's not where Oregon's living, and they're going head to head with Oregon for a lot of these. And Nebraska hasn't even started to win yet. Like, as you kind of put together, you've kind of seen up close the way they recruit people. If Nebraska starts to win, what's their ceiling as a team recruiting, like in sort of team rankings, the way you guys do them?
I think team rank. I think you can really push into at least competing for the top 10 or being just outside of the top 10 yearly if you start to string some wins together. I think it needs to be a combination of a couple of things, because think about what Nebraska has to offer on the trail. They've got, again, this is all before winning. You've got relationships. I think the staff, and this is not just like me saying this because I cover Nebraska. This is me talking to recruits across the country that are considering Nebraska and aren't considering Nebraska. Nebraska does as good of a job as anybody building and maintaining relationships. The guys feel comfortable at Nebraska. They feel like they've got a genuine relationship with the staff. They feel wanted at Nebraska. Nebraska does a good job of maintaining consistent communication. And then the facilities is something I think a lot of people are kind of understating on the recruiting trail. That's something that guys really look for. And again, I kept hearing it this week from guys that made it to campus the first time. They're like, oh, it reminded me of Oregon's facilities. Someone else said Texas A&M is the only other school that can really compare to what Nebraska has to offer from the facility standpoint. So this was a recruit that was coming off an Alabama visit. Like, he's telling me this, like, walking out of Alabama, and he's like, hey, Nebraska's facilities are up there with Texas A&M's and no one else's. Like, so I think guys are really impressed with the facilities Nebraska has to offer. Guys are really impressed with the relationships. They feel at home in Lincoln. For a lot of the Midwest guys, it's proximity to home. For pretty much everyone else they're recruiting, it's at least driving distance or like there's a convenient flight. It's not hard to get to. And then you top it off with just the development opportunities. Like, Rule has that in his resume. Terence Knighton has that in his resume. Like, a lot of these guys on staff, and it'll take a couple of years for them to truly build that at Nebraska specifically, but they have a resume they can point to and be like, hey, we have a track record of doing this, of finding talent and developing it. And I think those combination of factors make you a real threat on the recruiting trail, especially once you win and you don't have to sell, hey, we're building something. Like, when you can say, okay, it's built, like we're winning. We just need to keep stacking talent. That the recruiting will naturally, when you win, recruiting naturally takes care of itself. Pair that with the effort the staff's already putting in. I think that's like a combination and a good like recipe for consistent top 10 recruiting classes. I think the one question there would just be, again, you feel like you're competitive in an NIL standpoint. How competitive really are you? We haven't really found that out yet because they haven't had to bag multiple kids a cycle just yet. When you get to that point where you're recruiting top 10, you do have to do that. Like, unfortunately, that is the way it works, is to recruit at a very, very high level. You do have to outbid some other schools for multiple recruits. Nebraska has to prove they can do that with, 10, 15 guys in a class, not just 5 to 10 guys in a class.
Right. So, Tim, let me ask you, because TV, inevitably the question I was posing to Ravi, and it was a fascinating back and forth. And I didn't think he was super crazy, especially with Nebraska's brand, because that's the one thing I don't think we talked about enough is they have a huge brand nationally. But somebody has to get jumped or hurdled. If you're going to move into a neighborhood, somebody's got to be coming out. When you look at teams, I'm just going to stay in the Big Ten with Michigan, Ohio State. Obviously SC and Oregon. And I'm going to say Penn State, even though we did a composite dive last week. Penn State hasn't nearly recruited at as high a level as I thought. Certainly not as high as the equivalency of James Franklin's winning percentage. He wins a lot more games than he recruits in terms of talent, in my opinion. Who's most vulnerable to be ran down if you're going to kind of move into that neighborhood?
Yeah, I think the funny thing with Penn State is they really spot recruit well, like you mentioned. I don't think they necessarily rank super high consistently, but you always think of them as a top school because they pretty much once or twice every year they land 1 or 2 5-stars that they just like really dial in on. Like
Yeah,
they
maybe
do a
that,
good
maybe
job
that might be it.
They do a really good job of dialing in on their guys, and yeah, I mean, but I will say, I think they're a little vulnerable to get run down. I think the Franklin era is getting a little stale, and they need to kind of make that leap at some point. Otherwise, they're just kind of just spinning their tires. And obviously, I think Franklin's job is one that's under scrutiny pretty much every season. It feels like.
Maybe does Michigan recruit as well as they're given credit for? It doesn't. It doesn't seem like it on paper.
No, that's the thing under Harbaugh, and again, I covered them under Harbaugh. Like the frustrating thing with Jim Harbaugh's Michigan was they never got involved with the recruitments they probably should have. That is changing though now. Like you look at the guys Sharon Moore is involved in themselves with, the guys they're getting on campus now. They're recruiting like a program that just won a national championship now. They weren't doing that under Harbaugh. Like even post championship, they didn't make this momentum push because pretty much what inevitably happened, and this went on for the last 5 off seasons or so, they'd finish the season, and again, especially the last 3 years or so, they'd end the season on a high note, and then Jim Harbaugh would entertain the NFL, killing whatever recruiting momentum they'd built up with on-field results. On-field results got them in a lot of recruitments that they chose to back themselves out of just because of the staff or because of Harbaugh or because something was going on, and they never really recruited like a program, and it never really mattered because Harbaugh wanted his guys. They felt they could develop at a high level, but they don't have those like developers in the room anymore. Now they're at a point where, okay, we are a big national brand. Okay, we can be a little looser on the recruiting trail. We can play in the NIL pit a little more, and I think that's helping them a little bit. So they're recruiting at a higher level, but I think the question with them now is, can they maintain the success they had under Harbaugh? Because if that doesn't happen, I think they lend themselves vulnerable to getting run down a little bit. I'd also add USC in there, because I think Lincoln Riley needs to prove it. Like post coming out of the Caleb Williams era, and I also think they're making some weird decisions on the recruiting trail. Like they are trying to make Georgia a hotbed for them, and I don't really get why. Like I get Georgia has a lot of talent. I get you have relationships there, but it's really tough to sell coming all the way across the country year after year when you're not going to play anywhere close to Georgia on any road games.
Also, Georgia has Georgia in it as
Right,
well.
exactly. No, I mean, on top of all of that, it's like, yes, you're going into a state that like Alabama and Auburn and Florida and LSU and Texas, like everyone's trying to recruit that state, and you're the one that's furthest away with, especially because what they're trying to do is they're focusing on the defensive side of the ball too. You have the least to offer on that side too. You don't have like a track record of success on the defensive side of the ball to go sell. We have a new coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball to sell. And, if you get results this year, you potentially have that to sell. But again, you're not overcoming Georgia in Georgia. You're not overcoming Florida, not overcoming Bama. Like, come on.
Yeah, your best case scenario is like every once in a while we beat out Auburn.
Right.
The question for me with Nebraska is, can I make the argument that because Nebraska's always sort of had to recruit nationally just because of their location and the population, that they're actually set up better to recruit at a high level than if they do start winning than they were to kind of recruit at that mid-level, because regionally there's just not, in state there hasn't typically been that same level of talent. Like they've had to have these relationships nationally, so it kind of sets them up well to recruit at a national level. Can I make that argument to you?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing with recruiting just is you want to be on people's minds, and Nebraska, just because of the national network they have, is constantly on people's minds. And so when you do start to win, like I think fans across the country kind of come out of the woodworks a little bit. Coaches who like were fond of Nebraska growing up will be like, hey, Nebraska used to be dominant back in the day. They're kind of getting back to that. Like they're telling that to their kids. Like, we've talked a lot about Oregon today, just about how they're a new power. I think the big thing with Oregon, what kept them at the top of people's minds when, they went through all these different coaching changes and now that they're recruiting at this level, kids remember growing up and watching Oregon and seeing those cool uniforms on TV and Oregon being one of their favorite programs growing up because of the uniforms. There was a familiarity there. Nebraska has that same familiarity, not because of uniforms, but because of program tradition. And I think that's something that has not been really tapped into just yet because there haven't been results. And it's not been something that like fans can go out and be proud to be a Nebraska fan. Like when you get back to that point where fans are proud, I think Nebraska's like national, like, presence is going to like, just kind of come back to light.
That's Tim Verghese from Inside Nebraska. Tim, we appreciate the time as always, and I'm sure you'll be busy the next month, so we'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, TV.
Yeah, talk soon. Have a good weekend.
Tim Verghese from Inside Nebraska. Appreciate his insight as always.
Talk soon.
Talk soon.
Hashtag talk soon.
That's right.
I just was looking at.
I saw you writing down some numbers. I'm curious.
Yeah, 2024, Michigan ranked 16th. 2023, 17th. 2022, 8th. 2021, 13th. 2020, 16th. Or excuse me, 10th. 2019, 8th. 18, 22nd.
Yeah, I wish you had told me you were doing that because I had those numbers for you already.
Well, I forgot. So I said, hey,
yep,
you could go to such and such and you can get composite rankings like on the fly. Again, this is another one of those schools that I thought they recruited at a higher level than.
So here's why. The first couple years, he goes after his initial class.
Because he was hired in 15 or 16?
15. Yeah. His first class, so that year 0 class was 37th, whatever, you toss it out. His next two were 8th and 5th.
Yeah.
And then he goes 22nd, and then he goes 8th again. Yeah. So three of his first 4 classes were top 10 classes, including a top 5. But then after 2019, which was his fourth full class,
they're the numbers that I gave. Huh?
They had only one top 10 class after that, or one single digit class after that, and it was in 2022, and it was 9th. Otherwise, it's 13, 17, 15, 17, 13, 10th. Right? Nebraska can recruit in that range, 100%.
I the more I get into this, a lot of these guys have out-coached
the rankings, at least.
And some guys grossly under.
Oh, coach. I would say there's more guys that underachieve than the guys that overachieve. But I think where Nebraska is going to catch people is nationally, not in the Big Ten, because I think the Clemsons are falling back to the pack.
We come back. I want to jump to the NFL real quick with this quarterback discussion. And I got a Major League Baseball comp I'm curious to run by you.
Let's do it. Halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage, and we're brought to you by our friends at Team Jack Foundation. Make sure you get to teamjackfoundation.org to get involved and help them find better treatments and one day a cure for childhood brain cancer. You can donate right on the page, get involved with events, and even volunteer. Get over to teamjackfoundation.org. All right, DB, you had a question for me.
Yeah, we were having this quarterback conversation. And so my buddy Brian, he must have went back and listened, and it started with the question. He goes, you guys kept referring to Hurts as a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Or I said said he won the Super Bowl. And I replied, this is the exact conversation. Mm-hmm. And I text back, I said, no, been to a Super Bowl. I said, did I say he won or could win? He comes back, he says, it sounded like you both said that they won. And then I said, fudge. And he goes, I'm working right now, but I'll re-listen. So then he sent me the clip, and I was like, shoot, I was probably so sidetracked in the fact that you said he couldn't get to the Super Bowl. I don't know if I lost my composure or what. So I went back and listened to that conversation. Mm-hmm. So I was talking about all the quarterbacks, and there were a couple where I scratched my head. Mm-hmm. And
I said no to?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it forced me to go back.
Hurts being one of them.
So I got off the Hurts thing. Okay. I was like, okay, maybe it's just his emotions, because that Philly team has a chance to be really good. I like their whatever, like agree or disagree.
Mhm.
The one that surprised me, because I had to talk you into it. Do you remember who caught me off guard the most?
That you had to talk me into?
Yeah, it almost made me mad.
Was it Herbert?
No.
I remember the conversation. I remember you talking me into one.
He's a 2-time MVP winner.
2-time. Oh,
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Right? Like almost emphatically, you were like, no. He's seen his playoffs this. So
it's the playoff thing that haunts me.
So then the next 2 days, like there are all these, awesome quarterback conversations on national shows.
Mm-hmm.
So this pressure list comes out.
They must listen.
Versus MVPs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm listening to Kenny and Carlin, and one didn't even have Lamar Jackson on the MVP, his top 5, because his main thing was, well, he's won it twice. I just think that they're not.
They probably won't vote.
They probably won't vote for him.
It's like
again.
the Steph MVP thing. Like after he won unanimous, they weren't going to.
And his counterpart was like, I think he has the most pressure of any quarterback in the league. And I'm like, okay, I'll entertain the fact that there's a lot of pressure on Lamar Jackson, but more than any quarterback in the league.
Well, so let's figure out who the other guys are that would be in that conversation.
So let me just give you a few.
Yeah.
I think there's a tremendous amount of pressure on Dak Prescott. I think there's a tremendous amount of pressure. Now, you can get to the degrees.
Yeah.
Burrow
was the one I was going to say.
I think Love has a lot of pressure on him.
He does now.
I think Jalen Hurts has a ton of pressure.
Agree.
And quietly, I think has a ton of pressure we don't talk about. What happens if Aaron Rodgers lays an egg?
Yeah.
Like, how does Aaron Rodgers have less pressure than Lamar Jackson? In my head.
So I think I don't want to speak for you. I think for other people, it's because we feel like we know who Aaron Rodgers is more. Like we think of Aaron Rodgers as a finished product in terms of.
Don't we think the same way about LJ?
Well, no, because he doesn't have the Super Bowl. And I know that Super Bowl does a lot of heavy lifting.
So we're thinking like year 8 or 7 for Lamar.
He should be at that point.
He should
be there already.
Different skill. Okay.
That he at that point in his career, you've established yourself as a good quarterback in the league. I also think part of it for Lamar is the situation. Everybody thinks Harbaugh's a good coach. Everybody thinks that's a good franchise. We've seen them win Super Bowls before. We think that
they get kind of the USC treatment.
I would almost consider it not the USC treatment. I almost consider like more than that. Like I think we give
Ohio State.
Yes, that's a good example of like, hey, yeah, you should be good there.
Okay,
like you're in a position of success. Whereas the Jets, nobody feels that way. Nobody feels that way about
except for this year. I mean, they're calling us a Super Bowl roster.
That's fine, but I mean, in general, if
you have 2 of the best position groups on defense,
but if the Jets fall on their face, they're going to be like, Jets are going to jet.
Okay,
or they're going to be like, well, Robert Saleh's not that guy as a coach.
So let me tell you how my mind works. So all this is happening with me, right? And then this is on the heels of yesterday, Trout announcing that he's done for the season.
Yeah.
So you know how I like to listen to that I'm fed up with segment before I come in. And the I'm fed up segment was with Mike Trout.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Himbo. It was the other guy that was fed up with the fact
Costello, I think.
Pat, yep. He was upset because he thinks Trout resigned himself to mediocrity from a winning standpoint.
When he re-signed with the Angels.
Yep.
Yeah.
He said he doubled down on it when, Ohtani left to try to win a championship. And he went through all these accolades. And they are incredible.
For Trout?
Yep. But they got into how, for a guy that's hit 375 home runs, he has 75 less RBIs than anybody else. Doesn't have a lot of meaning. So they got into meaning, like shallow stats.
Empty stats, yeah.
And it morphed into this Hall of Fame debate. And he was the only guy of the 4, plus Michelle, that was like, man, this guy shouldn't be a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. And everybody else is laughing. Like, statistically speaking, whatever. And they got into injuries. So where I landed the plane with this is, do you know who I felt like they were describing when they were describing Mike Trout?
I Another baseball player?
No. A
Who?
football player. It sounded like they were talking about Lamar Jackson. Huge statistical performances. A couple of league awards.
Mhm.
So he's like a 7-time Golden Eight. Like his hardware is incredible.
It's regular season hardware.
For the lack of postseason productivity. And
that's why I called him James Harden.
So I'm wondering, should I go back and think, man, maybe there is a lot of pressure on this guy, because Lamar Jackson is in a dangerous area of not having gotten anything done with an unbelievable career.
Yeah. And a great organization.
But do you know who he's on par with?
Who?
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers?
Aaron Rodgers has the Super Bowl. I get it. Green Bay fan.
The one. He's got the
Jacob
one.
Padilla's going to be like, hey, man, but Rodgers has won a Super Bowl. I get it. And
that one Super Bowl does a lot of lifting.
And people hold the fact that he only has the one against him, as opposed to validating
that made it to one even.
That he had one. So I'm like, well, how does Rodgers skirt the pressure discussion?
Yeah, I think it's the organizations. On that specifically, I do think it's the organizations.
Is Lamar Jackson Mike Trout?
I think Lamar Jackson is James Harden. I look at it and I go, he's super productive, got all the awards, has really good regular season teams. For some reason, as I'm watching it, and it's part of it's the track record. Most of it's the track record. I can't really put my finger on why James Harden can't be good in the playoffs. I can't really put my finger on why Lamar James.
Why do I think Harden has more comps relative to his sport than Trout has in his?
I think there's a lot of comps in baseball. Now Trout's on the extreme end of it for accomplishments, but
I can really only think of a few that have been derailed like that are offensive guys. I think Eric Davis. I think Nomar Garciaparra.
Now his career numbers ended up being better, but the guy I first thought of was Ken Griffey Jr.
Now Griffey still did the darn thing.
He did, but
Griffey's got 200 and some more homers than
I understand that about 255.
Did Trout?
No, I understand that.
That's a fair amount.
But his career, from what we thought it could be before the injuries, was a totally different thing.
What about Tulowitzki maybe?
Tulowitzki's a good one. I'm
thinking of position guys.
Yeah,
because there's one
pitchers. There's a million.
Well, one really comes to mind. We talked about him off air the other day. He finally got a World Series.
Strasburg?
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Strasburg was a prodigy. Like that. That's who Steven Strasburg is the best example of that for arms.
I'm thinking to myself, how close is L-Jack in danger of being like Mike Trout?
I think he's very much in danger of being the guy that you just don't trust in the playoffs, no matter what. No matter what he does in the regular season.
Because even Bonds shook that rap.
Yeah, he didn't end up winning a World Series, but he had huge postseasons late in his career. Yeah. 2002.
Isn't that weird how my mind works?
Yeah. My first comp was basketball, so I get it. 2002, though, Barry Bonds. Go look up Barry Bonds' 2002 playoff run. I dare you. It's incredible. Coming up next, we got Kevin Iole. We're going to talk a little Bud Crawford and boxing coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by Kevin Iole. He covers combat sports for KevinIole.com. Kevin, what's going on?
Good morning, Ravi. How are you?
Kevin, good morning, man. Are we ready for this weekend? I think it's a lot better undercard than I think maybe the casual fans may notice. This is a pretty good card.
A lot of big names on the card. There's a couple fights other than the main event, which I know we're going to talk about at length. I think there's a couple fights that are worth watching. A couple of heavyweights, Martin Bakole and Jared Anderson. Definitely should be a fun fight. I think the fight that looks like the fight of the night is Isak Pitbull Cruz against Jose Valenzuela.
think that fight should really be a fun and entertaining fight. So, this isn't one where you have a bunch of mismatches on the card. This is boxing, and they can't help themselves, and they have their share of mismatches. But, Turkey El Sheikh has gone out there and spent some money to put some good fights together.
Yeah.
Kevin, you mentioned some good fights on this one. 3 title fights, including the headliner. You mentioned Pitbull Cruz. You got David Morrell as well. Is there a non-title fight? I mean, I know Andy Ruiz kind of got a big name for a while there in the heavyweight division. Is there a non-title fight here you're looking at that you think is pretty interesting?
Well, I mentioned the Jared Anderson-Martin Bacoli fight.
Mm-hmm.
Jared Anderson has been a guy that people have looked at and said he might be the next great heavyweight. He's 6'5", 250 pounds. Very athletic guy, very hard puncher, 17-0 with 15 knockouts. But he has been moved kind of carefully by Top Rank. Top Rank has they're really good at building guys up, and they know how to match, but they take their time. And so Jared hasn't fought that high level of guy. Now he's fighting Martin Bacoli, who's bigger and older and has more experience. And Bacoli, not to say that Bacoli's going to be a superstar, but Bacoli's one of those guys, if you're not on your game, he's going to beat you. He's 20-1, a very, very solid guy. And so I think that fight, because we could see Jared Anderson fighting on the Fury Usyk rematch undercard in December in a really big fight should he win this one.
Yeah, that's interesting. What do you make of his personality? Obviously, they're 2 vastly different heavyweights approaching this, not only stylistically, but their temperament as well. He too young and inexperienced to know better, or you just kind of like the loosey-goosey style that is kind of his MO?
I think Jared, 2 separate things. He's had a lot of issues outside the ring, right? Especially as he's gotten success. He got arrested a couple of times.
Yeah.
He led police on a 130-mile-an-hour chase not too long ago. But in the ring, he's a very mature fighter, and I think he understands, what is required of him. So, I think the key to Jared is just to kind of keep the focus in the ring and where he's not dealing with issues outside the ring. And if he does that, I think he has all the talent in the world. He sparred with Tyson Fury 5 years ago when Fury first came over to the U.S. and Fury was like, "Who is this guy? He's unbelievable," and was really impressed with him. So I think Jared's one of those kids, that he is smart enough to understand how good he is and how good he can be. And that puts a little bit of pressure on him, but I think he's a guy that's going to make his mark in this sport.
We're talking with Kevin Iole, covers combat sports for KevinIole.com. Kevin, let's switch gears over to the Crawford Madrimov fight. What does that matchup look like for you? Obviously, Crawford, way more experience, comes in with a lot more fights and
Madrimov's a big boy.
I would say, but Madrimov is physically maybe a little bit more imposing than Crawford is, at least walking around on the street. How do you make this matchup?
First of all, I think, people who don't know Israil Madrimov should know that he is a really talented guy.
Yep.
And even though he's only had 11 professional boxing matches and is a world champion, which says something about him. He had a very long, amateur background. And one of the things that, has been happening in recent years is that, a lot of these Eastern European and fighters from the former Soviet countries, they have fought so much in the amateurs that when they turn pro, they're turning pro against guys that are, way more experienced than they are. They're not turning pro against other, 0-0 or 1-0 fighters. And that's kind of what happened, with Madrimov. He was on a fast track, right off the bat. And so he's been there. And, he has been compared, and I would say a poor man's, but he's been compared to Gennady Golovkin, right? A physically imposing guy, good combinations. So, it is not a walk in the park for Terence Crawford. But having said that, and I wrote in my betting picks column yesterday, Terence Crawford is on an entirely different level.
So now stay with me here, Kevin. Don't laugh me off our own show. But and obviously being so close to Terence, like emotionally, I always I walk through these scenarios and I try to think similarly what I could be seeing. And I went back to, now Bivol has proven to be on a whole nother level, but I went to the Bivol Alvarez fight where Bivol was so much, physically, he was so much stronger than I think Canelo felt like or had felt before, and he just kind of kept him at bay, stayed kind of in it was very what I would call, he didn't take a lot of chances, and it works for Bivol. And I'm probably overthinking it, but how much will Bud have to commit to getting Madrimov kind of out of his shell in order to take advantage of Bud's natural talents?
Well, I first of all, there's no smarter fighter in boxing than Terence Crawford.
Correct.
He, to me, is up there with Andre Ward and Floyd Mayweather of the last, maybe 25 years in terms of being a very bright fighter, right? So
maybe that's why he and Ward are such besties.
Right, exactly. And he has looked at Madrimov during training camp. And he knows what is going to work against him. And so, I think that, and Madrimov is not this, huge guy. Madrimov is thicker than Bud is, but they're the same height. So it's not going to look, there's some fights, Earl Spence looked like, a physical mismatch against Crawford, right?
He sure did.
And we saw what happened there. This is not going to be like that. Madrimov is a thicker guy than Bud. But, Bud's ability to switch stances and his ability to work the body, I don't think people understand how good his body work is. Mike McCallum, a Hall of Famer, was known as the body snatcher.
Yeah,
and I think,
great
you
pull.
can call Terence the body snatcher too, right? Because he has that style that he really goes hard to the midsection and he counter punches to the body, which is so difficult to do, but it's so successful if you do that. So I just to answer your question, I think Terence's boxing IQ is the thing that's going to win him this fight.
Yeah, Kevin, you mentioned something there about, finding the weaknesses in Madrimov and his game. That's something I'm not sure people appreciate about Crawford is if you have any holes or any places your armor isn't totally buttoned up, he will find that and just hammer it. Like I'm not sure, and you've got a way better Rolodex than I do for this kind of thing, but do you have a comparison on somebody else that had that level of, if there is any weakness, he will exploit it in a way that makes you look completely incompetent almost?
Well, the two guys I mentioned a minute ago, Mayweather and Andre Ward, right? I think those two are the guys, that they were great physical talents, but they also had that high boxing IQ. And I did a piece on my site the other day, and I talked to Joe Goosen, who's a Hall of Fame trainer, now also a broadcaster. Talked to Stephen Breadman Edwards, who is one of the sharpest guys in boxing, a great trainer. I think he'll be a Hall of Famer someday. But right now, he's just one of the smart guys in boxing. And also Jim Lampley, the Hall of Famer, used to be the HBO broadcaster. And I asked him, I said, there's been 15 Hall of Famers since 1980 who competed in the welterweight division. How does Crawford compare to them? And they all raved about him, and they basically, to me, it's almost heresy to compare anybody to Sugar Ray Leonard, right? I mean, Sugar Ray Leonard was so great. And I just want to read you this quote that Joe Goosen said to me that I thought really sums up Bud Crawford. He said, "Could Terence Crawford make life miserable for a Sugar Ray Leonard or a Tommy Hearns? Absolutely, no question. Basically, it would be a death match. We know it would be a tug of war until the 10th hour. If you put Terence Crawford in that situation against a Leonard or a Hearns, nobody is going to bowl him over. I don't care who you are." Think about those words. Thomas Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard, what we think of as these all-time great iconic fighters. And he's saying Terence Crawford is right in there, even 50-50 with him.
Are you surprised? Oh, I'll get you out of here on this, Kevin. Because when I think Hearns, I think of a much more explosive puncher. But then I look at Bud's track record and his ability to get guys to put a glove on the canvas. He's got a string going. Are you surprised that his power has traveled with him so well?
A little bit. I mean, because, he has that, small frame, right? So, he started at 135. So you look and you go, yeah, he is a vicious puncher.
Yeah.
But, he has a couple things. He knows how to place the shots. He's accurate. He turns those shots over. He sits down on them, and he breaks guys down. He's not just, winging punches at the head. He's going up and down, and he's really, hitting them with punches they don't see coming. And those are always the punches that hurt you the most and end up, causing you to get stopped.
That's Kevin Iole, KevinIole.com. We appreciate it as always, and enjoy the fights this weekend.
See you guys. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Coming up next, we've got Mike Sautter of Hurrdat Sports here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on KFOR in Lincoln as well. DB here, Ravi with me. I'm Ravi Lulla. Mike Sautter joining us as well. And you should join Union Omaha out at Warner Park. I'm going to give Mike some time to mute his computer. You should join Union Omaha out here at Warner Park tomorrow, Saturday, August 3rd, Youth Soccer Night, and it will be followed by Special Olympics Unified Series match presented by Leonard Management. You can get your tickets, gear, whatever you need over at unionomaha.com. What's up, Mike?
It was muted.
He's a cold shot, isn't he? You just have to gut it. Like, I know
it was muted. And
I heard
an
echo.
Oh, did I mute it?
I know you wanted to clap back
not.
immediately. My man will just spit out a barb, no problems, and keep it pushing.
It was muted, and then it wasn't because I'm like, I better check. And then it was.
Isn't it weird? He's like an assassin. He said it. He just kept on pushing.
It was mute. I made sure.
I heard an echo. I'm gonna give Mike Sautter.
It wasn't my echo. I muted it.
Okay, Mike, we do this every week. We've been here for hold on. We've been here for 2 hours, and there's been no echoes after the first segment. And
how is it possible that my computer was muted? And there was an echo?
I don't know, but there was no echo until you got here, so I don't know what to tell you.
This is what the echo sounds like.
Yeah, and it's
unmuted,
and it did that.
It did not. It did it after you said it because I pushed the volume.
I said it because there was an echo,
Mike. True.
I said it because there was an echo.
100%.
My favorite is your delivery because it sucks.
I know exactly what it is.
And it's just like, well, equal opportunity offender.
I mean, listen, there was no echo for 2 hours.
Yeah.
I didn't hear an echo on this side over here.
I didn't either. Thank you, Shane.
Shane, you got.
Thank you, Shane.
Team
Shane,
Sautter
the
today.
producer of the show who deals with the audio stuff, has my back. It was muted.
Well, I mean, okay, we'll let Shane go today. What's up, Mike?
So you don't live very far from our final guest, Matt Vrzal, who was fortunate enough to not lose power. Did you lose power
for like a couple hours?
So you were on the short end.
Yeah, it was like
I'm not gonna give up your vicinity.
It was like 5:40, 5:30, 5:45 till about 9.
That's not bad.
Wow.
Not bad
Just enough time for me to get the rake out and start going to work. That's what I did.
I can't believe of all. No, anybody else can believe it because I'm not good with manual labor. But did you know I didn't own a rake? I have three. Listen, I have 3 different shovels. I got a push broom, 2 regular brooms.
Yeah.
I have a blower. I have a little jagged thing that you use for like trimming.
Like a trimmer?
No, it looks like a saw, but it's not a saw.
Oh,
it's like for shrubs.
Okay.
It has
just a trimmer. Yeah.
Okay. Whatever.
Like hedge trimmer.
And I have another thing that hangs on the wall. Yeah. But I don't
hedge trimmer.
Handheld hedge.
Like no, if it has the
it's for cutting branches. It's for cutting branches. It looks
on it.
It looks like a fish where, gosh bless it.
It's a lopper.
It's like this, and then it has a thing, and then it
like
has
a Cindy.
Thing, and then it has a thing, and then it has a thing, and then it looks like
it has teeth on it.
Yeah.
Well, that looks.
You're a child.
Don't draw ever again.
That looks like looks like me giving you the middle finger if I could. What a weirdo. Would you grow up? Anyway, okay, Robbie, it wasn't that funny.
The top of that looks a little.
I'd like to put this pin through your eye. I just had your back a second ago. It's good.
No,
Job, Robbie.
yeah.
It's what I mean, Shane. An equal opportunity.
That thing that you drew is it like do you plug?
Is it
in?
electric or is it like
Yeah.
a handheld?
Yeah, it's a
It's
just
a
trimmer.
such
It's
as a hedge trimmer.
Well, it has a battery that goes in
teeth
it.
on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a hedge trimmer. Yeah,
All right, well, whatever. I don't have a rake,
That thing wet.
and I was shocked.
on one.
And I went to Ace Hardware for a rake, and I don't have any idea what they were attempting to pull off because it wasn't open yet. But there were people in there, and it was in the dark, so they didn't have power.
Yeah.
Yeah, the double doors didn't open, so they opened up this little side door, and I was like, I wonder what's going on in there.
Just running like a black market out of the Ace Hardware.
Yeah, full disclosure, though, it didn't smell very good in line. So after I was too embarrassed to answer a question because I knew somebody was going to say something smart to me, I walked out. I was like,
I need to get a leaf blower because I'm out there just like push broom and everything.
I did our back deck and in the front,
Let me tell you,
and it looks, and
I'll
leaves were
help
stuck
you
to the
out.
windows and stuff.
I'll help you out.
So you were only like 4 hours. Good on you.
That's not bad at all.
I was outside all
Were the
day
girl?
yesterday, though.
I know it. Were the girls scared?
Not really, no.
All right.
By the way, back in the day, not too long ago, when power
in the day.
when power would go out, businesses would do cash transactions.
So maybe that's what
They
the
were maybe
hardware
Cash
store-
only.
But it was
cash only.
dark in there too. Maybe that's why they only let one or people in at a time.
Yeah, you probably didn't want to get like
You think
overrun. Have
people
people
know how
start looting.
You think people know how to like
Add tax and
It
do all
wasn't-
that.
It wasn't as bad as
Make
people
change.
driving without.
make change manually,
Yeah.
like in your brain? It's people probably struggle with that nowadays.
Also, I'm trying to figure out how
there's not a number bigger between than 99 and 1.
I'm
Like
just saying. So
you can't
ever
do
tried
you can't do
Carry
63
that.
minus the 100.
My question is though, like how if you don't have power, how are they opening the cash registers to get?
there's a key. There's a little.
I mean, depends on how old your cash register
Well,
is.
yeah,
Some of them
true.
aren't anymore.
Yeah.
Some of them are like electronic automatic. Like I don't know.
You should have seen what some looters did to the safe at the convenience store across the street from me.
Oh really?
Yeah, they like bent it in. It looked like somebody took a blowtorch and melted. It was this. They must have hit it with a mallet.
Oof.
Or something. Like it was.
Well, that would probably be a sledgehammer because a mallet would be rubber and that wouldn't work.
Oh, geez.
Just saying.
This guy.
Technical.
I had a question for you before we get to
All right.
high school sports.
Okay. Not a lot of high school sports going on right now.
No, so this is about quarterbacks, and I know you came in doing jumping
Aaron Rodgers.
jacks and cartwheels because of the Jets just happened to be on television when you walked in. And
JTS number one.
So I said if there's pressure on Lamar, then there has to be equal to or more than on Aaron Rodgers.
100%.
You agree? Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't taking a shot at Aaron Rodgers.
No,
unless
yeah.
like you can't turn up the gas on L-Jack
Yeah.
and not have the same, because you can make the case Rodgers' window's smaller.
It's
Definitely
year.
smaller. I mean,
It's this year.
almost non-existent.
Yeah, it's this year.
There's a chance, and I'm not trying to be a jerk here, for once. There's a chance the Rodgers window is already closed, coming off that injury. Like somebody at that age coming off an Achilles, there's a chance it's already over. Best case scenario, it's like a 1-year shot, right?
Yeah.
So like
2 maybe.
yeah, like you're not talking about Lamar Jackson should have multiple years left at being at this level of a player in the NFL.
Although legs when they go.
Sure. Yeah. We've seen that with other super mobile guys, but I mean, how old is Lamar? 30? 29?
Yeah, maybe 30.
So I would
Because that
think
Heisman was 18 or 19. He was 2-time ACC Player of the Year in 19. Or no, he was MVP in 19.
Yeah.
So he's
17.
So 17.
So that's what, 7 years. So he's 28.
Because he was
29?
MVP in 19 and 21,
He
23.
was born in 1997.
So this is like making change.
So he's 27. He's 27 years old.
Sautter. Can you introduce him to Jamie? Because he can't do math either.
27.
What do you use, your phone?
What?
What do you do when you have to?
I wasn't saying I don't know how to make change. I was saying some people.
Other people. Other people's problems.
Because he's born, he's 97. So he
Carries a W.
I was
So
in high
he's
school.
27 years old. So you would think at least 5
He's
more
got
years.
5. Yeah.
You would think 5 more years, even on the low end for mobile quarterback. Because other guys, you're talking mid-30s minimum. But
so was that my guy Mike? My guy Mike D. Well, I'm Mike D, and he puts
Oh,
he
Keep
gets
going.
no. Mike put Josh Allen in that.
Really?
Yeah, because
I
Mike.
think that's too much.
Okay, so I want to
He's
say
too
Trevor
young.
Lawrence so bad, but he plays in Jacksonville. But I still think there's pressure. There should be pressure on Trevor Lawrence with that contract.
I don't think there's that much pressure on Trevor Lawrence. Most people just don't think he's very good.
I went with
That's part of the
He's
pressure.
better
I went
than
with
a lot.
Burrow, Dak, Love, Lamar, Hurts, and Rodgers, and he put.
I'd put Allen on there above Dak.
Do you realize who Josh Allen is throwing to?
I don't know. Yeah,
but I did say to Mike, like if you want to hold Allen, like if you want to put him in elite status, then he's got to elevate Keon Coleman and
that's
Shakir.
my argument.
And Kincaid's already a stud.
Right.
So that's my argument with Josh Allen.
But his best returning receiver is Curtis Samuel, and most people don't even think he's a receiver.
I get that, but not that long ago, we were trying to put not you and me, Royal. We were trying to put Josh Allen pretty close to that Patrick Mahomes category. Like a lot of people were 2 years ago. We're talking about Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, kind of as that same guy. If you're going to even begin to have that discussion, then he needs to be able to elevate those receivers.
All right, Mike, I'm with you.
Lamar.
Because I as you can see, I scratched him out. I did have Allen in the discussion, but I took him off.
I think Allen has
because of his receivers.
I think Allen has more pressure than Dak Prescott because I don't think anyone thinks of Dak Prescott as that guy. That's why I think, like, yes, Dallas, the team's better. I get that. But I think there's more questions about who Dak is as a quarterback than there are about Josh Allen. I think people think more highly of Josh Allen, which comes with more pressure.
Yeah,
if Dak Prescott played for anybody other than Dallas, he'd have an MVP.
Yeah.
If Dak Prescott, I mean, he's Kirk Cousins.
Am I making that up?
He's Kirk Cousins. He's a good quarterback, but he's Kirk Cousins. Nobody thinks Kirk Cousins.
And I'm not. This isn't DB here for defending Dak, but I mean,
big Dallas guy.
Yeah.
Nah. Hey, tell him again, Matt.
Hey, the Jets have to win this year. There's no question. They got to make
big Dallas guy. Dude, get out of here with that.
Is that not your squad?
Jets have to win this year, and
I'm sick of hearing it. Listen, I couldn't even get in your and Jacob's conversation about good quarterback play because the team that I cheer for, I'm not even in the discussion.
But Justin Fields
is better than paying somebody.
Wow, yeah.
It is.
Who took your – so we had this knockdown drag out about quarterbacks, and I thought Ravi was being ridiculous about who he thought could make a Super Bowl and who couldn't. And by the way, go back and listen to that. I still think you're ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Can Jalen Hurts get to a Super Bowl?
Yeah.
We're not talking about not get to.
He only has to get there.
Win.
If you're paying the money for a top-end quarterback, you only have to get there.
He won one
already. You only have to get there. Don't change it.
Hey,
I didn't change it. I said win.
And I think
Jalen Hurts already win one.
No, see, I thought that too. I said that in frustration. He made it. He didn't win.
He can win one for sure.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem. Here's the problem with Jalen Hurts. He made it to a Super Bowl on a rookie deal. Now that you're paying Jalen Hurts,
the roster is comparable.
The
roster's comparable.
Now it's a problem. They've already started losing D linemen. Jason Kelsey's gone. Like, you're already losing guys.
Cam Jurgens is in there.
Cool. You're already losing guys. Jalen Hurts on a rookie deal is different than Jalen Hurts when you pay him. That's literally the entire point of the argument.
Hey, Squirrel, my man PK, he knows what I'm talking about. He said the tool I was trying to describe is for pruning trees. That's exactly what
so
it's
for.
So
it's a pruner, not a trimmer.
Okay. Thank you, PK.
I think
it has a long.
I tried to draw it, and you were
so
acting
it's
like a 6-year-old.
Is it chopper?
No,
that's called a lopper. The thing I used that yesterday.
No,
lopper chopper.
No. Okay, never mind.
You do the chopper.
I knew I could.
Is
just
it
count on PK?
Tree? Is it a pole saw?
Dude, you're speaking a different language. I inherited it. I didn't buy it. Golly.
Listen. Back to the Jets, which are the best team in America.
I still don't think how you don't think he could get to.
Jalen Hurts can absolutely win a Super Bowl, no question.
Well, he said no to Lamar Jackson too.
Yeah, he can win one.
I'm like, this has to be the most PCP heroin segment I've ever heard.
I mean, and then literally you just spent all of last segment talking about how you weren't really sure about Lamar Jackson anymore. So maybe I'm not nuts.
No, I was talking about pressure.
No, in the 8:30 segment, you spent the whole time comparing him to Mike Trout, who hasn't
I said at this point in their career, is Lamar Jackson Mike Trout?
And
that's
then you're
very comparable.
That's a fair question.
I like that.
I thought of that all by myself.
I like
that.
It is a good comp, but do you think Mike Trout's going to win anything?
No, but I think Lamar Jackson is significantly closer.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson only has to jump Patrick Mahomes. And I say that only tongue in cheek because Mahomes is everybody's boogeyman. I mean, that dude is John Wick.
Yeah.
For real. I'm just gonna call him like Baba Yaga.
But he's got to.
I just watched that again.
He's got to do like a Bob Beamon jump though. Like that's not a little jump
That's a great pull.
to get a.
Hey,
And there are
Thank
some better long jumpers since then, but I do appreciate the Beeman pull.
Thank you.
I just know that the Jets have to win, and they have to win this year or next. And if they don't, it's going to be
That's a wrap.
You have You have two units on your defense that people will put up with the
Ridiculous.
best
everybody
in the league.
best over anybody.
So, and we keep talking about Rodgers,
Don't forget.
and they have my man Brees.
Don't forget.
Everybody.
Don't forget, Brees Hall is the best running back in the league. Don't forget.
I don't know. I'm biased because
You know
I
Christian
love him.
McCaffrey exists, right?
Brees Hall is the best running back in
That's
the league.
not
I do.
accurate.
It's not.
just not
It's
accurate.
I do appreciate.
I like
CMC.
Brees Hall a lot, but come on, man.
He's the best running back in the league.
So your partner
my
in
guy.
crime, young Jacob.
So Brees is, if he's not number one, he's top 5 for sure.
Yeah,
I'll put him in top 5. That's fine.
I'm
but
telling you who people are sleeping on, and he's fantastic. And
Gary
I said
Wilson.
this before, and he's in the same. They're in the same
Jameer
division.
Gibbs. No, not the same division.
Same division as Brees Hall. He's incredible. He is incredible. He's top 5 in the league rushing last year, and we sneeze at it like no big deal. Top 5, maybe 4. He's certainly top 5.
Freaking Miami. Why can't they?
Nope, not Miami. Nope. You only
think
get
of
down
Mostert?
process of elimination. You know New England sucks. So who totes the rock for Buffalo?
Oh, Cook.
Yes,
Yeah, he's good.
he is silly.
They just don't have anything. Oh,
Dude, when they started rolling, they started letting that dude
Yeah,
get touches.
They lost.
I
so
love
much.
his running
They
style.
lost. They not only did Buffalo lose, they lost a lot. Like,
So they're
they
going to
lost
roll out
Diggs
with
and-
Coleman, Shakur, Kincaid, and Samuel. That's not bad.
It's not.
it's really not.
great.
I mean, it's a hell of a lot better than what Mahomes rolled out with last year.
It's true. This is true.
Wow, did you see who tweeted it out? Might have been Wynn. What's his buckets? Worthy trying to get off
Yeah, and got jacked.
press.
Yeah.
Well, it was really just cover 2, right?
Yeah.
And they're not going to let you release outside.
No,
and my man got pinballed.
Yeah, he got
But
he got bullied.
he'll learn from that.
Yeah.
He'll be fine.
They're not letting you in there in C2. That guy's squatting.
Yeah, they got all these low, quick.
He got bullied.
Chiefs are gonna be just fine.
Oh,
Like,
We're going to do this thing again. We're going to keep this thing rolling.
let's
No,
go
you're not.
back to what I said last year. The reason I like the Chiefs, regardless of their record, is I can't just in good faith say Patrick Mahomes will not get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Now, I ain't picking him to win it, but I'm just not messing with that
He
guy.
has put himself in that category where you just give him the benefit of the doubt until it burns you.
So,
Can I ask this question real quick?
Shane, you can do whatever you want.
If
Because
Kansas
especially
City-
as good as your quarterback plays,
If
over there in
Kansas
Vegas.
City was on the other side in the NFC, would you say the same thing?
About what?
About
yeah,
about
because
them
the
getting to the
AFC
Super Bowl?
collectively has better teams, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
the AFC is better. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be even more definitive.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
there's-
if you're looking at NFC, Detroit and
So
San
when
Francisco,
Jacob
there's only a
was
couple.
Jacob was upset with Ravi. I mean, he took him to task. And
Jacob's pretty.
Ravi
black and
was conspicuously absent from that back and forth. I had to do
was
the
that yesterday?
day before.
I don't remember what I was doing, but I was
white.
busy.
Wednesday.
Like for 3 hours, you were out, and Jacob and I were just going back and forth. And I
Yeah,
was like, hey, I wasn't even the one that I didn't blaspheme love. That was my partner.
I kept.
And he goes, yeah, this is more for Ravi.
I kept seeing it ping, and I was doing something, and then by the time I was available, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna go back and get that.
Yeah. So did you realize before the play that Love was on an 18-1 touchdowns interception stretch?
That's fine.
That's pretty
He had
good.
another year before they had to pay him. That's my
Pretty
problem.
efficient.
So it kind of took me a second because I still had the Jerry Jones comment because we had the meltdown
Mhm.
the morning of the show where he's like, well, we saw those two guys head to head and can't wait to get that taste out. I'm like, why would you do that to your own quarterback? But
Because Jerry can't help himself.
you know what would be hilarious is if they let Dak walk to draft Shador, but they're not gonna get high enough.
They won't be high enough.
No,
Listen,
unless they have like a weird injury year or something.
I'd take Dak after Rodgers leaves after this year or next. I'd take Dak for sure.
I don't think you want him for the going rate.
Yeah,
do you?
Well, not. I mean,
How about all these guys doing 4-year deals now?
The problem
with the option.
The problem with the Jets is Rodgers is pretty cheap, comparable now to everybody else.
I told Rod we had this. You know where he was in the rankings? I said
17th. I saw.
Yep.
Yeah.
I said I'm only going to give you the top half.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I said Rodgers at a paltry 37 mil is only like 17th and tied for 17th.
So the problem is you have maybe they're banking on Jordan Travis being the guy after a year off this year. Where they're just going to get him healthy. Maybe maybe he can be. I don't know. But the Jets are stuck. Here's why. Yes, they had a great draft with Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner. Like, that's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, you're going to have to pay those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't pay all three. There's no way. So you better win now or next year.
You're not going to pay the running back.
Your
just not gonna pay the running
ownership
back.
group historically has not paid, but you probably could because the cap is going up. Somebody's gonna have to give you a friendly deal.
Well, they got to pay Hassan Reddick right now. So
they're just not going to pay the running back. I mean, we know this. They're just not going to pay the running back. Yeah. That's how it works.
Those three guys coming in the same draft class is awesome.
Yeah,
but you haven't won on their rookie deals yet, and that's coming up. Like you're gonna have to pay those guys.
I'm telling you the team to watch out for, and I'm gonna say this, and
the Jets.
The franchise is cursed. You got to keep an eye on the Chargers.
Well, Herbert's foot is a problem now.
Yeah, but they're going to be okay with the cap. They've gone young at receiver. They kind of purged. They're getting his guys in. He's a good year one guy.
Yeah,
Harbaugh, like
the better year two guy.
Gonna want to just run
There's just something about I just can't. My problem is I can't get Mahomes out of my head.
That's
the problem.
Everybody's problem in the AFC.
Division.
Really,
but because I do think two teams in the North are going to come back to the pack, and I think the Bengals and the Browns.
If you're any team in the AFC.
Is it wrong that Burrow has pressure?
Bad. No, Burrow should have pressure.
Because 2 years ago, before the season started, we did this drill about taking young quarterbacks under 25, and we both picked Burrow.
Their defense Their defense.
Burrow's in the same.
Their offensive line,
and their offense. Yeah, they lost guys.
Burrow's in the same category to me, even though they've had different careers at this point, as Josh Allen. We think of him a certain way. So that creates more pressure than on guys that we don't.
And all Burrow had to do was, and I say all tongue in cheek,
make a Super Bowl.
He just had to get to the Super Bowl.
I mean, his two receivers are pretty.
Yeah, you better get that guy in camp though.
I know.
T. Higgins isn't happy, and Chase isn't happy.
Those guys are.
Is the culture good enough to overcome some grumble bugs?
Yeah, I don't know. Those two.
I mean, it's not
those two together.
Winning franchise.
It's been a bad franchise.
Those two together are just ridiculous.
Can you believe they played in 2 Super Bowls since '80?
I mean, yeah.
For as much guff as Brown gets,
they're like the Marlins. Terrible franchise, but they kind of stumble into it every once in a while.
And speaking of which, I probably owe, at least up to this last couple of days, I might owe our man, Mr. Andrew, an apology.
Yeah?
Well, he looks a lot more right about Jazz Chisholm than you do Trevor Lawrence. He was dying on the Jazz Chisholm.
Oh, really?
And apparently change of address.
Well, since that happened, it's been okay.
It's good for Jazz Chisholm. I'm not ready to say I'm sorry yet, but I might in a couple weeks.
Too late to apologize? Little One Republic up in here?
Too late. That used to be my jam.
That's DB. That's Mike Sautter. I'm Ravi. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. Mike Sautter with us here on a Friday, and we have to remind you to go to hurrdatsports.com to pre-order your Hail Varsity Football Yearbook for 2024. You can order now, between now and August 11th, for exclusive interviews, position breakdowns, one-of-a-kind photos, and so much more. Get ready for the 2024 season with your Hail Varsity Football Yearbook. Again, go to hurrdatsports.com to order your copy today. And just so people know, I had a couple questions. Those will ship out all at the same time after that August 11th pre-order date comes up. So if you pre-ordered yours already, we didn't forget about you. They're just all going to go out at the same time. What's up, guys? You doing all right?
I'm fine.
You put a compromising photo on Facebook.
No,
I don't know how to respond, but I feel like I need to respond.
Well, just be like, I would just be like Josh. He's like, no.
Yeah.
But I think the pictures. I think the picture is decent.
I need to be very PC on what I'm trying to respond.
Hey, how about just a simple no? Like, I like the fact he got to the point, so I appreciate that.
It's
Josh.
not, but I can't get the thing out of my head of what I said off the air that is not.
Yeah, well, you just need to grow up. I knew what I was trying to describe. Now you got Les chiming in.
It's not.
And I can't say anything slick to Les because he at least was going to help me with the generator. Our Uber driver. By the way, where has he been?
Who? Husker Uber driver?
Yes.
I don't know.
I hope he's okay. Well, clearly he's fine.
I was going to say, if he's chiming in, he's probably right.
He's been quiet for like a couple of months.
Well, it's not. He's got to save up for football season.
But he just hit me with a simple no either. The point is to get the drawing based on the words that I was describing.
And it wasn't close.
That did not help me at all. That didn't get me anywhere in the neighborhood of just landscaping tool.
Little sharp, like teeth, like a triangle.
But they're not really like, that's not what they are. They're kind of more
teeth.
They're kind of more round than they're.
Not really.
Well, whatever.
It's not round.
You guys doing all right? You gonna make it?
It doesn't look like a wart.
It kind of looks like a road with driveways or something.
Yeah, it's like
it does kind of look like a neighborhood, and you got like little circles.
Yeah,
little circles coming off. Then an odd end, sort of bell-shaped at the end.
I think if you would have done it like maybe
apparently the amazing Daniel is a child as well.
Yeah,
I think if you would have done it like maybe twice as long, it probably would have looked a little bit more like it.
I don't know.
Probably.
Well, we do know that it's called a hedge saw.
Yeah.
Or a hedge trimmer, whichever you prefer.
Appreciate Jay chiming in, getting us straightened out there.
Dude, how about her snark though?
Well,
I said, how do you know?
She's from Gothenburg.
Because I know more than you.
That's exactly what she said. Because I know a heck of a lot more than you. Oh, all right.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah.
All right. Now I'm getting the LMAOs. It's fine. It is. Like, I'm not like, I've said worse, and I apparently have drawn
I don't know.
Not much worse.
I don't know if you've drawn worse.
I'm usually a good drawer. I was trying to go in a hurry because it was radio.
Damon Benning, the artist.
Yes, formerly known as. Wow.
Stuff out here.
It's really bad.
Stuff out here.
Can I go back to this quarterback thing?
Yeah, let's do it.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
That's a great question. I was going to say how you feel about the 5:45 a.m. practice time.
I'm cool. Like, it's hard. I told Ravi. Like, we have a couple of our coaches that are in a bind because they have to be in other buildings. But I got Coach Samanji's vibe. He wants to go early. First of all, it's better for us.
Right. Kids, for some reason, the kids like it.
Yeah, they do. And I got a decent partner, right? So if I roll in at 7:45,
yeah,
we'll be okay.
Yeah, we'll make it work. No big deal.
And then we come back. I like Nebraska's practice schedule.
Yeah?
Yeah. Mike, would you pay $25 for a fundraiser?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Mm-hmm. Shane, never mind.
Like, why I get if
Shane,
I'm
I can't get Shane to pay $25 for food.
If I'm a Nebraska fan, I'm for sure I would pay that to go watch a practice.
That's what I said. No brainer. No brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even blink at that.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Hey, my man Schuster, my buddy, asked a good question over text that I think a lot of people are wondering.
Mm-hmm.
So Brian's question was, he didn't even say good morning. He just fired off hard questions.
St. Louis Brian?
No, different.
St. Louis Jordan. Sorry.
Jeez.
Ryan Jordan played for the St. Louis Cardinals.
This is how we do
That's
it.
Montel Jordan.
Oh, whatever.
You remember Brian Jordan? That dude was jacked.
Yeah.
He played football too, right?
Brave too, yeah. Brave and Falcon.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, he played for Falcons. Yeah.
Anyway, he says, what happens to NIL if the settlement goes through when you pay guys? And my response to him was, I said, that's going to be the thing. I don't know if anybody's really sure yet. If it's a true value market NIL, which is what
the NCAA
is pushing for.
Yeah. Which is what they wanted originally for
then
NIL.
1890 just has to pivot into being more of a marketing firm.
Right. Yeah. Which is
That's fine, right?
I feel like they're prepared for kind of all that stuff, right?
Which was cool to hear Matt talk about because he's right. You do have to be very flexible but forward thinking.
Yeah, you gotta be fluid.
And it just fits.
It fits
Dan and Dannon too.
Because how often we've talked about Rule just going into it where he's like, hey, we got to figure it out. Doesn't matter what changes. Doesn't matter what.
You have 200 more high school coaches than you wanted?
Figure it out. Let's go.
We're not closing the registration until the night before. Wait, what?
Figure it out. It's a way that the whole entire athletic department seems to operate now. But yeah, it is. I think in one form or fashion, and Matt was right in the sense that you don't know what you're going to come up against next month versus the month after that. But I do think in some way they're going to have to basically turn themselves into a marketing firm. Yeah. And what that looks like, what the parameters are, he's right. Anybody that says they know isn't being very honest with you. But
how hard is it? And I already know what Sauter's going to say because he likes, as we know, a path, things a certain way, regimented. How much of a different person do you have to be to operate in a headspace that is so fluid like that? That would drive some people up the wall.
I can pivot. I'm pivotable.
Can you imagine though?
Yeah. No, it's
like
hard.
You have to be aggressive and forward thinking without a clear knowing your work could change in 2 weeks.
We just kind of have to know. Like, I feel like I'd make adjustments on the flyer in the moment and things often. Yeah, I have a plan. Hey, I have a plan. Like, I definitely plan.
We know how much you love hitting curveballs.
I have a plan.
Or when you don't know when you're getting in the batter's box.
Right. Like, I definitely have a specific plan. There's no question.
Hey, where am I hitting in the lineup? But you don't know?
No. But being able to pivot and move and change it and jive in the moment is important. And I think that's just, you have to have the right people that are capable of doing.
It's a nighttime practice, so keep it in context. Will weather impact where you think the numbers are?
Nah, I think so.
What's it supposed to look like?
Is it today, right?
Tomorrow night.
Nah, I'll be fine.
I mean, I think going back to your question, DB, I think it's a lot about what Coach Rule talks about all the time, which is not getting attached to things, right? Like, you have to be invested without being attached.
Yeah.
Like, there's have emotions without being emotional. Like, you have to be invested in
them all. You love Coach Rule.
It's my guy. We bro hugged it up at media days. We're best friends now.
He did. I was like, wow.
He gave me the whole dap. I was excited. I was like, oh, so me and Rule are best friends now. I like this. I still don't have his phone number. We're gonna work on that. I gotta be able to text him.
Trying to go on a date.
Careful. Careful with that now.
You're just in the exching messages on.
Yeah, like we're in the talking phase. Yeah. We're not exclusive yet. But but it's you have to be invested in the direction you're going without getting so like set in stone and set in your ways that you can't adjust. Like, it's gonna be like we're not gonna, even a year from now when it's supposed to go into place, this still isn't gonna be figured out yet, right? That's kind of how the NCAA operates. Is they don't really proactively solve problems. They're like, oh, we didn't see that coming, let's make a rule now or whatever, right?
Even in go ahead.
I also think Nebraska and Coach Rule in particular are very much so on the forefront of all of these conversations.
Of willingness to be.
And they know, it feels like he kind of knows what's coming before it comes.
Did you catch where Dannon said
Which
that
is
he
different.
was interested in
100%.
Interested in the job Bill Moose's time around? But now he appreciates like the experience that he's gotten since then.
Yeah. Well, and
I was like, the more you know.
That's a really different job than it is now.
Oh, it's like night and day.
Yeah.
Totally different.
I mean, it's a really different job.
I agree.
Can you imagine Bill Moose working with this stuff?
You ever heard of like there's this invisible string theory
in general?
Hey, working's good. Where like
I think he gets kind of a bad rap for that.
Two things are. I think he's the AD that they wanted at the time.
No, he was great at the time.
Like he accomplished the things they wanted him to accomplish, and they were kind of cool if that's all that happened.
Yeah.
And so he's like, all right, I'm cool with that too.
I still think my drawing is better than you guys are giving me.
It's terrible.
It's not good, man.
It looks like
it's a pretty good drawing of something else, just not what you wanted it to be.
With warts on it.
Coming up next, we'll talk to Matt Vrzal.
Incredible.
As we wrap up the week here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. I'm Ravi, Lulla, DB here with me, Mike Sautter joining us as well. We are efforting.
Well, yeah, why are you still here, Jerome? You just like talking
He's
to
like
us?
hanging out with us. We were talking
supposed
about.
to be here from 9 to 10, right? Most every day if I can.
We're talking
You just want
about.
to see if you're going to catch
I had to
somebody?
move that lunch later, though. I had to move the lunch.
Did
the
you already
lunch
look at
day
the
later.
menu?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm hearing some echoes.
It ain't me. It's not me.
Was that just me this time?
Maybe.
Not me.
I think you're just. I think you're just hearing Shano talking to Verghese.
Hey, that's that thing I told you everybody was advertising again. The Busch Light Peach or whatever.
Yeah. No, I'm good on that. I don't
Yeah, I'm with you, and I like peach, but I don't. Yeah.
You don't really. You're not a beer drinker though.
No. Although
I'm gonna drink some today.
Got my I got Byron.
Yeah.
A thank you for hauling branches.
Yeah.
So we went to the Nebraska Brewing Company.
Yeah.
Dude, they got a lot going on in there. Shane, did we get Matty?
I'm working on it.
Oh,
Still
okay.
working on it.
He might be working. He was not in a good mood yesterday.
Yeah, that's all right.
Ooh.
Imagine that.
Little busy?
He usually comes down during the conversation, even if it starts off rough.
Yeah.
He didn't come down yesterday. I couldn't get off the phone fast enough.
Wasn't having it.
Nope.
Just the storms or what?
I don't know, man. Say, man, you want me to call you back since it's at a set time, or just call the store, man?
We got Matt here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Matt.
Hey, Matt, I called the store yesterday. That worked out well for me. How are you doing?
You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
What's
are you
up,
there?
Verse?
Are you there?
Oh, couldn't hear anything at first.
Well, hey, how the mirrors treating you this morning, Matty?
My hearing is amazing. I actually asked the kids at Paisans. I can hear them from anywhere in the building.
I think that has a lot to do with your paranoia too.
There's no paranoia. That's just good hearing.
Yeah.
How are you gentlemen today?
We're good, man. I followed your instructions yesterday. I did not call you back. I called the store like normal patrons, and
there you go.
It worked out well. I talked to Crazy Connor, and he was good.
Yeah, CBs.
Yeah, you guys must have been busy though, because it took a couple of times to get through.
Yeah, our neighborhood behind us, we've never lost power, but the neighborhood behind us, and then back further, there's still some folks without power. So
people needed to eat, man.
Isn't it weird how you could be so close to somebody and they lost something, but you didn't? I wish I knew how the grid thing worked.
Same.
Yeah, once you figure that out, the south of us is a different portion of the grid than we're north. We're with the people across the street. Huh. So literally, like, we're the differentiating line.
How did
we've had phone chargers, and people have been able to stop in and charge their phones and extra outlets.
Yeah, I do appreciate you doing that. I was just talking about the Nebraska Brewing Company. They open at 9, so people could come in and just charge their phones and like order trucks and stuff, because there's still so many people without power. Like that whole. Would you take no water or no power, Maddie? Like if you're at home,
shower,
flushing the toilet.
I would probably say
no power.
I'd probably say no power, because with no water you would eventually die.
Yeah, and
I think I could circumnavigate not having my phone.
And flush the toilet and stuff like that is probably a problem.
Yeah, but you could. You're from Sutherland, you go dig a hole.
I lived there 1 year. I lived in Grand Island for a year too. 1 year.
Yeah, at least have the common courtesy to dig a hole. Don't just do it on the ground. What kind of sense does that make, man?
I have used a leaf before.
That's mildly disgusting.
You never have?
Yeah, right. Oh my god. Oh, jeez. Who hasn't?
I have not used a leaf. No,
Yeah,
I haven't.
Probably 60%.
Matt, you used a leaf before, right? Like you just had to. You're out somewhere camping or something.
Air dry.
Oh.
Okay. Okay.
From the mean streets of Omaha, and won't use Mother Nature to clean himself after he's done.
Well, I'm not even going in public, so don't act like you didn't know that. So you can relax with the pot shot. Like, your bathroom's fantastic, and it will see no parts of DB. It's one of the greatest bathrooms ever, especially when I figured out the lights turn on automatically.
Yeah,
That is true.
Open the door.
They do.
We had to move the lunch today. I'm going to lunch with my wife for our anniversary, by the way. And we pushed the day. What'd you say?
Good happy anniversary.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. We had to push the lunch back because I'm like, okay, I do radio from 9 to 10. And then by the time I get home, I'm going to have to do that and then take a shower after that because you don't shower. You have to shower after.
So
Yeah.
Matt, I'm curious though, because you only have the one of each in each, when all those people are kind of like taking advantage of power and stuff like that. Was that a thing for you that you had to stay on top of with like paper towels and all that stuff? Or did you not have that many people that were coming just to get away from the heat?
No,
wasn't that big of a deal.
No, I mean, restaurant and that stuff, those things come in such bulk. Like, we didn't have a big onslaught. Like, there wasn't people lined up to come in and charge phones and use bathrooms. We had it there if they needed it. So, yeah.
The inventory for the orders though, you saw the immediate spike because there weren't a lot of places open, man. It was hard to get food out.
I mean, for me, we're prepared. You've had to change how you operate a business because, and it's no fault of the supplier, but the supply chain will break down.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to prepare for, like, you'll think you're preparing for the week upcoming. You're actually prepared for the week after that, just in case a failure of the transport system happens.
Hey, so didn't I remember you walking me through how to buy COVID kind of taught you that, right?
Yeah. Well, you just had to be nimble. Like, and you'd like to blame the wholesaler, but you can't, because our wholesaler's awesome. I've been with Cisco for 25 plus years. They do the best they can, but when the actual producer of the product is having issues,
mm-hmm.
you better have somewhere where you can find something very similar everywhere in town. Because they'll say, hey, unfortunately the trucks didn't make it here to get out to you, so we have to do blah, blah, blah. I was like, that, we got this, we got that. I just need to know what I got to go get. So,
yeah. Since I want to kind of
just pay attention.
I kind of want to stick to sports. Pretty cool idea with long overdue. Would you have been a guy that charged to go to practice to raise funds? I kind of think that's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, me too.
And you have, we say it over and over again, you're a captive audience, right? The University of Nebraska and Lincoln is the pro team, they're the college team. For some people, they're the high school team. Like, it's everything to the state. So you're not taking advantage of people as long as you price it right.
Mm-hmm.
And when you put it at the end game of this is going to be NIL money for all sports, you can do nothing but win out of it. I mean, now the nephews and I, when we go on the uncle nephew trip, we've seen quite a few training camps now, and it's a few bucks to get in. You're not breaking the bank, but when you get sports that are kind of lagging in their NIL and they feel that they're having trouble competing with other teams to get players, I think it's a really great idea. And you use the big dog, much as he always has, to pay for everybody else. I think it's good marketing.
Verz, what'd you think of? I mean, you mentioned, hey, as long as you're not charging an arm and a leg to kind of take advantage of people. Like, how'd you feel about the price point of $25? Was that seem about right to you?
It's a little rich for practice, but I think Nebraska has finally realized it's behind the 8 ball a little bit with NIL, and they got to catch up. Your worth is what people will pay. So if you have a number in your mind of how many people you think you would want to have at practice, and you put 25 out there and it doesn't get to your number, then the next time you do it, you move it down to 20. If you still don't get the number you think you should have, you move it down to 15. So you're in an uncharted territory. They aimed high, and we'll see how many people show up.
Yeah, part of me is curious on how he'll, because they're really creative. How he'll, he says, I want people to see how we practice. I'm curious to see what he'll put on the line.
No, probably not.
You know what I mean?
That's always an interesting one. everybody, you want everybody to see how you practice until you start to really practice, and everybody's like, oh my God. Like there's some things in sport just left to the imagination, and you don't really want it. Hey man, that's a mean game played by mean people. And so some people don't need to know. Some people don't need to know what goes on behind the scenes.
Huh. Interesting.
Matt, how are you feeling about this USA men's soccer team about to go down 4-0 to Morocco in the quarterfinals?
They're down 4 to Morocco.
It's 3-0, and Morocco's getting a penalty kick right now. So yeah.
That whole organization, USA Soccer, needs an overhaul.
Just
because you have kids committed to playing soccer, like great athletes committed to playing soccer, and it's like anything. Like if you go out and you get beat by a more talented team, and I don't know boo about Morocco, okay? But I'm going to go out on a limb and say we probably got a few more dudes more athletic than Morocco, right?
Yeah.
So now if the adults start to fail the participants, then you got to overhaul. Like there's no reason even in the Copa that the U.S. should get destroyed like it did. That's bad leadership.
Yeah.
People will blame the coach. I always go a level higher and say, who's hiring the coach? Because this is that dude's that was that dude's second time around. Like it's embarrassing, and it is what it is. It just poorly run organizations will always operate poorly. It's just the way it is.
Ain't that the truth? Matty Vrzal, we appreciate your time as always. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, boys.
Thanks, Matty.
That's all for Hurrdat Sports Radio this week. We will be back on Monday. That's DBM, Ravi, Lulla. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Have a good weekend. Have a good anniversary.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
All righty. See you, boys.